Yes, I am.
In 2022. He was found dead at Hefner Ranch, extension cord around his neck with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the chest. So he was shot and hung. Do you have any information that leads you to suspect that he did something other than commit suicide?
No.
I could not help myself. There was one juicy little tidbit I did let out. The one about what a super stud that you are and how I have a crush on you and how you are hung like a horse. And
I think unless there is some serious danger of physical harm to one of the victims, or some national security interest involving intelligence, because you've heard me say, some of you think that there's some.
You'll notice they ask, did you know about underage girls giving massages? No. Did you know? Did Kevin Spacey ever ask you if you were concerned about the young girls on the flight? Not that I recall.
Are you familiar with this email?
Well, I am.
It was sent for
Hung
in
as a
preparation
horse.
for this.
I don't like to brag.
At the
So
time,
what are the odds that the only time Clinton gets a massage is the one time he's pictured getting a massage? It's just at any time I hear spanking, I gotta get in there.
Pizzagate was totally made up. I don't follow the crazy conspiracy stories that are online.
Really, I expected a lot of interesting questions today, but Pizzagate was not on my list.
This is way outside the
chairman's
scope.
ruling.
This is way
within the
outside the
scope?
scope.
Is this within the scope, Mr. Chairman?
If the chairman rules
Is this
it
within the scope?
We'll go off the record and can talk.
Oh, there's a video? Well, then yeah. So this guy's slithering around with these world leaders, just like a snake with Maxwell. And our intelligence agencies didn't catch this and at least brief the Clintons, like, hey, you might want to look out for this guy.
A lot of people feel the takeaway of this case sometimes is the fact that if you are powerful enough and have enough political connections and the money, you can escape justice.
John? John?
Mr. Secretary, can I ask you a question about the Office of Professional
Yes.
Intelligence?
Hi, Peter Alexander from NBC.
Yeah.
To be clear, dozens of girls were allegedly molested. Why didn't you just keep investigating? And then a follow-up, please.
So,
Call the plea deal that he got in Florida, the non-prosecution agreement, more than highly unusual. I would call it completely unprecedented. I don't know that I've ever seen a deal that lenient in a case like this. So the non-prosecution agreement that Epstein entered into with the Southern District of Florida, which was headed by Alex Acosta, is only binding on that one district, the Southern District of Florida. It is not binding on the other U.S. attorneys' offices, including the Southern District of New York. And the U.S. attorney for the Southern District, Jeffrey Berman, said that today during his press conference, and he's correct. This deal that Acosta gave to Epstein years ago is completely indefensible. It's unusual and unprecedented in several respects. In how short a term of prison Epstein faced, 13 months he ended up serving, and most of it on work release. The fact that Acosta did not notify the victims violates federal law and is something even a first-year prosecutor would know better than to do. So I have to think Acosta knew that and intentionally disregarded that obligation. And the fact that Acosta signed a deal that immunized the co-conspirators, the people around Epstein, is very strange.
Donald Trump in 2002 said of Epstein, he's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. President Trump acknowledging that at the time. And also, of course, we know that former President Clinton flew with Epstein on his private jet, reportedly dozens of times. Do you think, or how would we learn if any of these individuals, others he's associated with, could get caught up in this case?
Good question. So the number one way we'll learn who else was involved in any respect is if this case goes to trial. When a case goes to trial, all the evidence comes out, names get named, and we will learn everything if it comes to that. Now, if Epstein pleads guilty before a trial, then we're going to end up in a gray area. And traditionally
is a Fox 10 News Alert.
All right, folks, we are going out live right now for the Labor Secretary, Alex Acosta. He is addressing the Epstein case right now, live on News Now.
Facts are important, and facts are being overlooked. Simply put, the Palm Beach State Attorney's Office was ready to let Epstein walk free. No jail time, nothing. Prosecutors in my former office found this to be completely unacceptable, and they became involved. Our office became involved. The victims being scared and traumatized, refusing to testify, and how some victims actually exonerated Epstein. Most had significant concerns about their identities being revealed. The goal here was straightforward: put Epstein behind bars, ensured he registered as a sexual offender, provide victims with the means to seek restitution, and protect the public by putting them on notice that a sexual predator was in their midst. This matter started as a state investigation. A state grand jury brought that single, completely unacceptable charge. In this case, the federal office intervened before the plea was taken and said, stop.
How would you describe your relationship with the president? And do you feel that the news cycle here with Epstein is changing that?
My relationship with the president's outstanding. He has, I think, very publicly made clear that I've got his support.
We begin the hour with breaking news that Labor Secretary Alex Acosta has resigned.
And so I called the president this morning. I told him that I thought the right thing was to step aside. Selfish for me to stay in this position and continue talking about a case that's 12 years old. So you're raising the issue of victim notification. I've addressed the issue of victim notification as well. The career prosecutor in this case had a difficult decision to make, and she didn't make it alone. She made it in consultation with the FBI, and she made it in consultation with the office. She did not want to share with the victims that the office was attempting to secure for them the ability to obtain monetary compensation, because she is aware that if she disclosed that and the negotiations fell through, Epstein's counsel would use this to question the victim's credibility. And we had to weigh the issue of how much to disclose against the issue of if we have to go to trial, we want to win. She made every effort to notify the victims at that time.
But then why was it not in the interest of justice to charge him with these crimes?
So again, I would refer you to the documents I've provided. There is a big gulf between sufficient evidence to go to trial and sufficient evidence to be confident in the outcome of that trial.
But it seems like you're making this out to be a case in which you held the possibility of a federal indictment over the head of Mr. Epstein to get him to plead to a lesser crime, and that in and of itself is against the ABA.
I do not think that office violated the ABA standards.
The best deal you could get, and you have no regrets.
We believe that we proceeded appropriately at the time, and I've provided a timeline, I've provided information about the individuals involved. This was the view of the office. there is a value to a sure guilty plea. So, yes, I met with opposing counsel. It was a breakfast meeting because I was staying at the hotel. It was after, not before, and not part of the negotiations, but it was after the agreement had been negotiated.
You've mentioned several times that you and the prosecutors in your office weren't sure that you could secure a win in this case, but the very purpose of the CVRA is to give the victims an opportunity to weigh in, and a federal judge ruled that you broke federal law by not doing so. Do you think that your thinking would have been different had you followed the law and consulted the victims?
So first, let me point out we followed department policy. Now, I understand that the judge had a different view, and I understand that the judge's view was that department policy did not comply with the law. Today's world treats victims very, very differently. Today's world does not allow some of the victim shaming that could have taken place at trial 12 years ago. Today's world understands that when interviewing victims, when eliciting testimony, that testimony can be sometimes contradictory.
Joining us, President Trump's Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta is defending his role in a 2008 plea deal for alleged sexual abuser Jeffrey Epstein. At a press conference earlier this afternoon, Secretary Acosta says that he plans to stay in his role, citing his, quote, outstanding relationship with the president. 2008 plea deal, which Acosta negotiated in part, forced Epstein to spend just 13 months in jail and register as a sex offender.
And he tried to explain away how times were different. But Rena, I was prosecuting cases in rural Pennsylvania in 2007, 2008, so I think I can speak to a few of the points he made. He knew back in 2007, 2008 that victims, particularly of sexual crimes or crimes that are sexual in nature, they are complicated. They do sometimes recant. But the fact is they had potentially dozens of witnesses who they could have used to push this case forward. He argues that a career prosecutor felt that she should not disclose the deal to victims because if they knew they could potentially get money from Epstein, later on down the road that could be used to undermine their credibility. Rena, I don't get that argument, and a federal judge has rejected that argument. A federal judge has found that overall this deal violated the victims' rights by not disclosing to them that it was being arranged.
Some breaking news right now. Disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein has taken his own life while he was behind bars here in New York City. Epstein was facing sex trafficking charges. NBC News investigative correspondent Tom Winter now has the very latest. Tom, what more do we know?
Peter, what we know now is that at 6:39 this morning, the fire department and EMS here in New York City got a phone call from MCC, which is a federal detention facility here in Manhattan in New York City, where Jeffrey Epstein was being held awaiting trial.
Tell me, were you able to press Acosta on why he gave Epstein what a lot of people think was a sweetheart deal?
Yeah, so I was trying. I basically wanted to know, why is it that the case was weak in your opinion? He said that he felt like there were going to be impeachment issues with the witnesses.
That the witnesses weren't credible.
And so then I was saying, tell me what the impeachment issues were going to be. And so he's like, well, some of them didn't want to testify. I said, well, that's not impeachment evidence at all. And has there ever been a situation where you've brought a witness forward who did not want to testify? What other evidence was there? And if you felt like the case was weak, and most of us have rules where if you've got a statement from a witness and because of fear, maybe because of threats, because he said some of them were fearful, some of them allegedly had been threatened, all kinds of different reasons, man, there's ways to work around this. We have had people come forward with hardly any evidence, because we have what we call a one witness rule in this country, which says that if you believe this one witness beyond a reasonable doubt, then that is enough.
Right.
It's really getting at him. And he said, well, 2006 was a different time. You know, it was a lot different as it relates to the movement and what was going on. I said, let me tell you something. I've been practicing law since 2006, so I know what was happening in 2006. Right. So, and based on the little information that I know about what he had back then, in my opinion, he had more than enough evidence. I asked him, I said, normally prosecutors consult with the victims. And there are some cases that I've had to go to trial on, not because the prosecutor necessarily wanted to, but after they consulted with the victims were saying, no, I want my day in court and whatever happens, happens. It wasn't making sense. And even when I pressed him on impeachment, he never really got to impeachment issues.
Impeaching the witnesses.
Impeaching the witnesses, the victims. He never really got there.
What did he say?
Say you failed them.
I understand what the victims say, and I'm not here to try to say that I can stand in their shoes or that I can address their concerns.
Clear, dozens of girls were allegedly molested. Why didn't you just keep investigating? And then a follow-up, please.
So,
as far as I'm concerned, I watched Alex yesterday. I thought Alex did a great job. And, you know, you can always second guess people and you could say it should have been tougher. They do it with me all the time.
Acosta had that press conference where he tried to defend this controversial plea deal, a plea deal that a federal judge said violated the rights of the victims, alleged victims of Mr. Epstein. It appears that the president is willing ultimately to accept this resignation in the hope that this distraction goes away.
It's a murder mystery involving a young Omaha native that has grabbed national attention.
Someone shot and killed 27-year-old Seth Rich last summer as he was walking home in Washington, D.C.
It's been more than 6 months since Seth Rich was murdered. While the family grieves the loss of their son, they're also dealing with pressures out of their control.
What's it up to, Jamie?
Supposedly 39?
39.
I think.
39 people that you've worked with have died in the gym. They have these accidents. It's like,
imagine if Putin's body count's only 20. Family of Bill Clinton advisor who admitted Jeffrey Epstein into White House 7 times has blocked release of files detailing the death scene after he was found hanging from a tree with a shotgun blast at a ranch 30 miles from his home. Okay, here's the problem with conspiracy theories. There's so many people that are willing to jump on so many of them.
Yeah.
So many dumb ones that it muddies the water and it makes the word a pejorative. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. You don't think that some people occasionally conspire? Are we in denial of one of the most basic aspects of greedy people?
Sure.
To conspire? That's the thing about the Clinton body count. People go, if 51 of your friends commit suicide,
very sad.
Something's going on.
Correct. Dr. Bledsoe described at least one of the girls serving as a masseuse. At any point, did you or other male passengers receive a massage from this young woman or any other young women who are described as a masseuse?
Well, I've seen one picture that shows that in a airport waiting area, one of the women was massaging my neck. That's all I've seen.
Have you received
Only because you have a picture of it.
more than one massage from these trips?
The only time it ever happened
and the young
was when
girls that
you
were
see
present?
it there in the pictures.
I don't recall them, but I
don't recall.
I remember from that trip was that my neck had spasmed and I was in, and so they offered to help and I let them help.
He was in crisis. He was in crisis, folks.
Any other massage? No, I do not. Other than the birthday note that was passed around here today for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday, Mr. President, did you ever handwrite Jeffrey Epstein any other notes?
Well, I wouldn't remember except that I've seen a picture recently of another note where I thank him for getting me away from the crowd on the airplane for a while so I could take a nap.
I get upset because it's clearly you're at this late stage in life and you don't honestly feel bad about your participation in this. You feel bad that you got caught. You're president of the United States and, probably worse than Kennedy, obviously, when it came to women. The guy just could not keep his dick in his pants. So much so that he doesn't mind palling around with people that are known to be associated with statutory rape of young girls, regular rape of young girls, assault of young girls, so on and so forth. Like, fuck all these guys. It's crazy. I used to be like, oh, you don't have to respect the man, but respect the position. We keep getting these shitheads filling the position.
Do you believe that Jeffrey Epstein was suicidal?
Do you know?
Was he ever suicidal?
Of your understanding. I don't know. I only know what the medical finding was. I think maybe.
Yeah, nope, because you helped order the hit.
I don't know.
Allegedly.
I don't know.
Don't shut me down.
President, what did you accept? That he killed himself or that he did not?
That he did, but I don't know.
Fact that we have a president that could be compromised by a massage and a hand job. That's really, really embarrassing. I mean, just on a global scale, geopolitical scale. Need to get something out of the Americans? Yeah, just make sure Clinton gets a hand job while you're there. You'll be okay.
I'd say that it was accurate to say that I felt closer to her than to him.
And for the record, why was that?
Because I had seen her more, and because she was very good friends with Evelyn Rothschild and his wife Lynn.
This is how you know this is dishonest, because if you wanted to come clean about something, okay, maybe you got one lawyer to your right to make sure you don't get yourself in too much trouble, right? But Clinton, he's got two lawyers that we can see, probably a team behind him. I think they all announced their names before the deposition began. And I'm fairly certain, I don't know, it was a couple nights ago, but I'm fairly certain there was more than just those two as representation. And then before he can answer a question, he has to go and look at the exact stuff that he has said under oath to make sure he doesn't go back on that now. That is dishonest as shit. That is dishonest and lawyerly as it gets. That is not a man who feels bad that's trying to make amends and do the right thing so it never happens again. No, dude, you're full of shit. Ugh.
Would you agree with that?
Warmer than with Jeffrey Epstein?
Correct.
Oh, yes. But it was not in any way sexual.
Just answer the fucking question, you piece of shit. Tell the truth. If you would tell the truth, this wouldn't be happening right now. But he has to look at what he said before to make sure.
258, 259?
Correct.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Now I can read what I said before and make sure I don't get in legal trouble.
Are you asking us to read that?
That's what my wife says.
All of 258 and all of 259?
Correct. Asks Maxwell if she has ever visited your home in Chappaqua, to which Maxwell testifies that she had been invited to visit your home. For the record, did Miss Maxwell ever visit your home in Chappaqua?
I don't recall.
Excuse
me, counsel, the transcript says I went to the house. Does it say invited? Did I miss that?
Maxwell replies after Blanche asks, why did you go to the house? Right. Maxwell says, I was
invited. Team of lawyers can't figure this out, folks. 2 lines.
I will repeat the question again. Did Miss Maxwell ever visit your home in Chappaqua?
I don't recall, but it's quite possible she did. Hillary was a senator.
Miss Maxwell implies that she may have been just driving past Chappaqua and stopped in if you were home. Did this ever occur?
That is something that's very true, Ron. We've seen the photos now. We've seen the communications now. So, they can, again, try to gaslight us and tell us we're not seeing what we're seeing so that you feel like watching this and caring about this topic makes you a piece of shit or some kind of loser. I mean, literally, Shia LaBeouf calling people losers for caring about this case. They are pulling out all the stops to get us to stop paying attention. We're at fucking war right now. Just coincidence that right in the middle of all this, we launch an attack against Iran that we've been trying to get pushed into for 30 years. 40 years longer. Has nothing to do with the other. I don't recall. Fuck all these people. I'm gonna keep saying it. Fuck all these people.
If you don't.
Not that I remember, but I may not have been home.
They made him read her deposition first, or interrogation, whichever that snippet of testimony came from, giving him an opportunity to read that so he wouldn't then lie under oath. And then when he realizes he's between a rock and a hard place, oh shit, Maxwell already said she's been to our house. I don't recall. Okay. Every time they say I don't recall, they definitely recall.
And to what was Doug Band's relationship with you? You were pretty close.
We were close, and Justin wrote my book with me. I mean, he did all the clerical work, and Doug was our main fundraiser when we started off.
The email that's listed there, WJC, is that your email address? Or was that your email address?
I don't recall. Practically, no. That is,
practically.
I never sent one email on it.
But you recognize that?
I recognize it, and
practically. I
think
mean,
Doug thought it would increase his cachet if he had an email with WCC on it. And
or did you send emails?
Have you ever sent an email, Mr. President?
I sent one email to John Glenn, Senator John Glenn, when he was in space at age 77. Men and women aboard a
for the
US
record, he sent
ship
2 emails.
in the Adriatic
Shut
during the
fuck up.
Kosovo War.
Have you sent any other emails, Mr. President? He's asking.
Since then, I'm not sure I've sent one.
2 emails. The president's how old? Like 80? He sent 2 emails in his whole life, y'all. Shut the fuck up. Oh my god. Well, let's let him read the facts before he lies about it under oath.
It says, sorry to hear about the Bellsberg stuff is bad news, even worse, that it may be damaging. You know that one of my pet fears is that in London I am press toxic, so I hope that I never add to your woes in that department. If I hear anything, I will of course let you know. I could not help myself. There was one juicy little tidbit I did let out, the one about what a super stud that you are and how I have a crush on you and how you are hung like a horse. And, well, you get the picture. Hope you don't mind.
Well, that part's true. I do recall that. When I was young, I was told these people were honorable. The Clintons. That they had, like, I don't know, given up so much because they cared about the country and, they were helping the working man and they were from Arkansas, so they cared about the low-income folks and about, squishing that divide between poor and middle class. And then they do NAFTA, which basically guts the working man's jobs. Right? Like all the manufacturing jobs and shit. Just bye-bye. So, like, they say one thing, and then they do another, and then when they get called on it, I don't recall. And then it's crazy to watch all these podcasters that were like, on Trump's dick. Let's be real. On his dick. Now backtracking and trying to, like, make excuses for all the terrible shit he's involved with. We knew who he was when he got into office. Crazy. All these people are shit. Every single one of them. That's how they get there.
And it says, this email is silly. I want to spank bottoms tonight.
Who's it from?
It's from the same email account, the same email that has been used before.
I only sent 2 emails my whole life.
What was your knowledge of Mr. Band's relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell?
I knew he was, basically, he contacted her in the same way that she represented Epstein on things. I did not know, nor did I need to know, that they had a personal relationship.
Are you familiar with Mark Middleton?
Yes.
Can you describe who Mark Middleton was?
He was a young man from Arkansas.
So Mark Middleton, dead at 59, Clinton's special advisor who let Epstein into the White House 7 times, dies. Find the one where it shows it. There's an article about his suicide. He hung himself with an extension cord and shot himself in the chest.
Simultaneous. Yeah.
Like, yo. I mean, this one is family of Bill Clinton advisor who admitted Jeffrey Epstein into White House 7 times has blocked release of files detailing the death scene after he was found hanging from a tree with a shotgun blast at a ranch 30 miles from his home. Kids. Monsters are real. Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Like, you don't think that some people occasionally conspire? like, are we in denial of one of the most basic aspects of greedy people?
Sure.
To conspire? People with power that control.
No, they stopped.
Giant swaths of the globe.
They don't do it anymore. They stopped.
How many of those guys were just killed? What percentage?
A lot.
Half.
How many of them work for the fucking Clintons? There's your answer.
But there was a period of time when he was in a position to wave people in to the White House because he was that was one of his jobs.
Okay. So he was has been identified by multiple news sources to be the individual that most of the time was entering or signing in Jeffrey Epstein into the White House.
Yes.
And what role did he have specifically at that time?
He was working on logistical things in the White House, but there must have been someone else who he told him to let him in. Maybe Mark had I don't know if he had the authority to let people in.
You can only testify to what you know. He's asking, who did Mark Middleton work for in the White House?
I don't know the answer to that.
Are you aware that Mr. Middleton committed suicide
Yes, I
in
am.
2022? He was found dead at Hefner Ranch, approximately 30 miles from his home in Little Rock. He was discovered hanging from a tree by an extension cord around his neck with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the chest. So he was shot and hung.
And also, it was a shotgun. It's not like it was a pistol. Hung and shot with a shotgun, and they want us to believe in good faith that, oh yeah, that's definitely a suicide, 100%.
Do you have any information that leads you to suspect that he did something other than commit suicide?
No.
Okay.
Do you have any concerns
That's a fucking lie.
that this was in relation to his knowledge or relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, given the date?
But the president has
Of the
already
suicide?
testified to the fact that he was unaware that Mr. Epstein was visiting the White House. So are you asking him then as to what he would have known?
I'm asking, when you heard about the death, knowing about the things that have been, at this point, it's all over the news, seeing that he has committed suicide. Have you ever had any conversations with people about whether or not that there's any relationship between the two?
Oh, no. No one's ever suggested it to me.
Okay. Thank you. I yield back.
Next up, Mr.
It's really sad.
Mr. McGuire from Virginia.
So let's say we find them lying under oath. We make a connection. We can pin them to the wall. We go, we prosecute them. And let's say the government even wins. And Hillary and Bill Clinton are facing 3 to 12 years in a federal prison. Whoever the president is at the time is just going to pardon them. It's like, even if we go through all that work. And they knew that. That's why these people want to get to the presidency. It's like ultimate immunity. You ain't never going to get in trouble no matter what you do. Because the next guy's just going to pardon you. Even if it was some horrific shit. That's why they want the presidency, half of them. So no, I don't think we're going to make them suffer any consequences, and I think they are, as they have clearly done before, going to get away with lying to Congress 100%, unfortunately. Now, if they were poor and they didn't have money for a team of attorneys and they weren't the ex-president, then maybe they get in some trouble for lying to Congress. Maybe.
Thanks to the Congress and the victims, quite a number.
Over 3 million. Now, as president, you're chief of executive for the U.S., and as we get to the end of this, I'm going to ask you, what could we do to prevent, because I think that's what we all care about, is what do we do to prevent more human trafficking type stuff. So let's talk about Kevin Spacey for a second. In a June 2024 interview on Piers Morgan, Kevin Spacey recounted noticing young girls on the flight and expressed he didn't want to be around this guy, Epstein, because it felt he put the president at risk on that trip to South Africa because there were these young girls. So did Mr. Spacey ever communicate these concerns to you directly?
Not that I recall, no.
Did anyone else express similar concerns about these young people?
No.
Do you agree with Mr. Spacey's characterization that these young girls on the flight were concerned?
I'm sorry, what exactly is the characterization that Mr. Spacey gave?
That these young girls would put the president at risk.
So that's Mr. Spacey's concern. And you're asking him whether or not Mr. Spacey said that, shared that with him?
Yes. Would he agree with that?
I had no reason to believe that at the time.
Okay. Did you ever feel uncomfortable due to the presence of young girls on any of these flights?
When you say young girls, do you mean women who are younger than 18? And so you're saying there were women younger than 18?
Okay, so, and for the legal minds, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe what he just said there is that even if Kevin Spacey went to him with, so he's saying that didn't happen. Kevin Spacey never came to him and said the thing about the girls. But that even if he would have, he wouldn't have believed him and done anything about it at the time. That's what he just testified to.
Than 18?
I'm asking.
Yeah, if you can ask that question.
Were there anybody on the flights that you can recall under age 18?
To the best of my knowledge, there was not. If there was, and I knew it, I would be uncomfortable.
That answer. All right. Did you ever
best
speak
of
with
my
or
knowledge.
engage with, well, I think you just answered, young girls on these flights, so I'll move on. Ron Burkle, do you know him?
I do.
All right. Ron Burkle commented on the Epstein is creepy. I would like to introduce Majority Exhibit. And what's number? 21, Majority Exhibit 21.
That is fucking rich. Ron Burkle's not creepy?
At the top of the page, the last sentence. If you would take a look at that.
It's like Peter Thiel calling someone creepy. Really?
Could you say what page again?
Sure, it's page 5, the paragraph at the top, the last sentence.
If you could give us a minute to read it, that'd be great.
It's going to take us 15 minutes and consult with 3 attorneys before we can read this one sentence. So we can go, I don't recall. Well, while they're looking this up, the flight logs that they are referring to are the ones from pilot David Rogers' flight manifests.
I don't know. Is that when's the last year we had it?
2013 is one of the years where they're asking whether or not she was there.
I know. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to.
So you can just.
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Well, I understand that she also attended your daughter's wedding.
She did.
And so, understanding now the unspeakable evil that these.
She was a plus one. She was just a plus one.
Mistake allowing them close to your family.
Are you asking if he knew at the time when she was at the wedding?
Looking back.
Looking back, I had no idea.
if I had known what she was doing, I would have done the right thing.
I understand. Well, I think that.
But I also, keep in mind, I felt bad for Ted Waite, who was a very close friend of mine. Well, first you need to ask people who know more about how people get over it. I mean, there's already been a large number of dollars put into settlements, but I think there must be damages to people that will take a lifetime to heal. So I think there needs to be a lot of study on that. And then I think there's the hotlines that where people make reports need to be taken seriously, and you need to follow up on them. And I think that the more we talk about it, the less likely it is that another big network will form.
You said, was the Secret Service with you every time you went on these trips?
Every time.
Every time, okay, good.
I have never signed off Secret Service protection.
Okay. Did the Secret Service, they screened all the other passengers and pilots, as far as you know?
They what?
Screen them?
Yeah, they have everybody's name and background and all that.
Okay. Now, I asked you about people who were connected to the foundation that you brought along, but I take it if they gave you an airplane and Jeffrey was on it, there were his staff too, correct?
Yeah, he had some staff on it.
Any of those people you remember, men, women?
Well, I remember Glenn was there, and there were always the other people that staff the airplane, right?
Right. I think one of the reasons you're successful is you deal with the average guy, right? You like to talk to the average guy. Did you remember the names of any of the Epstein staffers that were, serving you or that you engaged with banter about?
Well, the one we just been talking about.
Shante Davis.
Yeah, Shante. I remember her. Shante Davis.
Okay. Anybody else you talked about? Where
Bet you do.
Well, I talked to a lot of them. One of them was from Hawaii and was a military wife.
Okay.
I remember, but I don't remember their names after 20
Hawaiian gal? Was she Asian?
No.
No. Okay. Okay. Were there ever new people that you remember joining in the? This is kind of spread out over 4 or 5 years, or two or 3 years, I guess. 2 years on the flight. Did you ever get to the Virgin Islands other than on these planes? Have you ever been in the U.S. Virgin Islands in your life?
Oh yes, I worked. My foundation did a lot of work in the Virgin Islands.
And you also vacationed there as president?
Well, yeah, and when I was president, Hillary and I vacationed there, and we liked it very much.
Okay.
But when they had the hurricane in 2017, we went to the islands and tried to help. My foundation did.
Okay.
And we did a lot of work there.
Okay. We have another question. When you read about this, and obviously these five.
Isn't there a lot of emails about the hurricanes from 2017 on and around Jeff's Island, or both of Jeff's Islands? I find that interesting.
Also received a lot of public attention. Recently, a columnist pointed out that one of the reasons this human trafficking was allowed to exist is there were lawyers, sometimes high-priced lawyers, who were able to bring, I guess particularly from Eastern Europe, Eastern European girls through here, negotiate the immigration laws and such. And particularly some very high-priced famous lawyers were hired, and apparently, I don't know, they couldn't find anything better to do when they left Washington, were engaged in helping, I guess, girls that some people alleged became prostitutes get here from Eastern Europe. Could you comment on lawyers who make money bringing girls from Eastern Europe or other places around the world into prostitution, coming to this country.
Sorry, I'm just to clarify. You just want him to comment on that?
Yeah, I want you to comment. What do you think of these people?
So you're asking
I
his
don't
opinion.
like it.
What?
I don't like it, but I don't know much about it.
You are widely regarded across party lines as one of the most politically perceptive leaders of modern time. Your political instincts.
Yeah, Ron, it's very interesting. Body language matters, even to these accomplished liars. But yeah, you feel, this isn't me talking. This is like a whole science. You can go look it up. Hey, what does it mean when somebody giving testimony covers half of their whole face? Just look it up. See what it has to say. Especially for an ex-president. This should be nothing for him, right? If he was innocent, didn't have anything to do with it. I don't know.
Are very well documented, and your successes of your political career are well documented. How would you describe the substance of your conversations with Jeffrey Epstein during the many hours that you spent together on the aircraft?
Well, at first, he really seemed to be like a vacuum cleaner, like he really wanted information. And there was no, to go back to the business with what do you call it, the passport, the false link. There was nothing overtly manipulative about it. He wanted to know, what did I think of derivatives trading? Did I think that the stock market was properly regulated, or did it need more? How did we have the most broadly shared prosperity in 50 years? Was it just an accident? Was it just technology? Or do we have specific policies? He wanted to know stuff like that. And it was great for the first, 2 or 3, 4 or 5 conversations. But I could tell that it was like, you guys are in politics. Don't you ever feel like sometimes somebody's talking to you and then they're just checking the box and they got to go do something else and be somebody else? That's the way I felt.
Your arrangement was that you would spend an hour of conversation with him on topics of his choosing, and that
So he testified, just so that you know, on economics and politics.
On economics and politics.
Thank you.
Okay. And that was the arrangement, and the rest was in-kind donation, the flights.
For all the long haul flights, yeah. If we were gone 4 hours or more, I'd give him an hour. I think you did a good job as president, and you managed to get re-elected, and you're the first Democrat in 60 years that got re-elected. I want to know what happened, and I want to understand it. And that was it. He never was, it was never like he was trying to suck up to me or anything. He just was, it was very straightforward. But after a while, it was obvious that he had done what he intended to do, and he was kind of going through the motions, and he didn't really care about it.
I'm pretty sure Hillary Clinton said, she didn't even know who started the Clinton Global Initiative. She was like, I don't know, because Maxwell was involved. So, they don't know, they don't recall, blah, blah, blah. They 100% are downplaying at every corner.
Okay, did he ever ask you to make phone calls on his behalf?
No, he never did. I remember that, he didn't.
Okay, he would sometimes be involved in the dinners and the meetings, but never a meeting when he had to review some kind of legal stuff with the people he was meeting with. Okay.
Did you ever have any arguments or disagreements with Mr. Epstein or Miss Maxwell in the course of your travels?
Not to my knowledge.
In 1996, Maria Farmer, who was a confirmed Epstein victim, submitted information to the FBI that Jeffrey Epstein was sexually abusing minors. During your presidency, were you ever made aware of the information that Maria Farmer provided to the FBI in 1996?
No, and no.
Thank you. I'm going to move back ahead to the year
No,
2003.
and
There's just one international trip that I don't think
Littering
we
and
specifically discussed yet.
littering and
That was in November of 2003, a trip to, I think, Russia and China on Mr. Epstein's plane.
That's the last one I took.
Great. So I'm going to give you, I think for us, the last piece of paper for the day, which is the flight log for that trip. And we'll mark that as Minority Exhibit L.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
I'd forgotten I went to Russia and China.
You went through Russia.
Huh?
You went through Russia. You're coming from Norway.
Yeah.
And for your council, that's a total of 5 trips distributed between the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 9th here on this log.
Yeah, this was another one of our age trips because Ira was on it.
Yeah, so if you could just describe what you recall about the circumstances of this trip.
Can you refresh my memory about what stops were actually taken?
Brussels to Oslo, to the middle of Russia, Tolmachevo, to Hong Kong, to Chengdu, to Beijing.
Got it. We stopped in Europe. Norwegians had funded a project that we did for them, for the Clinton Foundation, for Russia. And they asked us to try to develop a plan for Leningrad. And we did.
What kind of plan, Mr. President?
An AIDS plan, because Leningrad had a very high AIDS rate because it was near the ocean and people were coming in and out. And I think that's what happened then. It was, I'm almost sure that's it, because and then we stopped in Hong Kong on the way out, right?
Yeah.
CNN has reported that in July of 2003, Ms. Maxwell co-hosted a fundraiser for your presidential library, and Mr. Epstein may have attended. We don't know whether or not you attended that event. Do you have any recollection of attending that event?
I don't. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't remember anything about it.
Thank you. An investigative journalist named Vicky Ward has claimed that Ms. Maxwell accompanied you on a trip to India sometime in 2003, including to the Taj Mahal, and that you traveled for that trip on a private jet owned by billionaire Ron Burkle. Do you have any recollection of the trip I just described?
No. But I want to be forthright here. The first thing I did in the way of public service.
I'm sorry. If there's anything you're trying to do here, being forthright is not one of them. We can certainly say that that's bullshit.
I left office was to
You're being forthright as long as you don't get in trouble.
try to help India deal with the aftermath of the Gujarat earthquake, which happened literally 4 days after I gave up the White House. I'm not saying I did or didn't do this. I have no memory. But I also I don't want to mislead anybody. We were doing tons of stuff. And we needed to finance it. So I can't say that I didn't do it.
Thank you. In your 2024 memoir, you said that by the time Epstein was arrested in 2005, that you had stopped contact with him. When do you recall being the last time that you had any kind of communication with Mr. Epstein?
The last time I remember was with him was sometime in 2003.
Attorney Brad Edwards has represented many of Mr. Epstein's survivors. He claimed in a 2011 filing that he believed the Justice Department possessed some kind of correspondence from you from 2007 or 2008 on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein. At any of the various points when Mr. Epstein was under investigation, did you or any of your representatives ever submit any correspondence to the Department of Justice on his behalf?
I have no memory of that.
To your recollection or knowledge, did you or your representatives ever have any other communication with the Department of Justice regarding Jeffrey Epstein?
Not that I remember, no.
CNN has reported that in 2007, Ms. Maxwell co-hosted a fundraiser for Secretary Clinton's presidential campaign in New York City. We believe that Christina Aguilera may have performed at that event. Do you have any knowledge or recollection of attending that event?
I don't.
An email released as part of the DOJ files recently that suggested you may have attended a party at Ghislaine Maxwell's home in October of 2009, and that publicist Peggy Siegel, as well as Jeff Bezos, may have attended. My only question to you is whether you have any recollection of attending a party that I just described.
Is this her home in New York City?
It would be at Ms. Maxwell's home in New York City.
No, I have no memory of that at all. I knew she was there, and she and Ted were there.
And what was your understanding of her relationship with Mr. Waite at the time?
Well, I thought they were together, and I think Chelsea and Mark did too, and she was there.
Do you have any memory or knowledge of Mr. Band's instructions that I just described?
I don't.
In 2007, Mr. Epstein's lawyers claimed that he was part of the original group that conceived the Clinton Global Initiative. Would you agree with that characterization?
No.
Can you elaborate a little bit on why you would not agree with that?
I wouldn't agree with that because the first time I ever discussed what became the Clinton Global Initiative was with Doug Band and the rest of our small group on the way back from Davos. And my job was to try to get some people who would come that people would want to hear and see, and try to, make it exciting and make people actually want to make commitments. And so I think it was at that point that Ghislaine may have gotten involved. I don't know. You can ask them about it, but I'm just telling you how it began. It began with Doug said, let's do this and make money, and me saying, let's do this and make commitments.
I think the question, Mr. President, which you've answered was Jeffrey Epstein involved in the
At the time, no, not at all.
Thank you.
But I do not know what happened afterward.
It has been publicly reported that in 2006, Mr. Epstein made a $25,000 donation to the Clinton Foundation. Do you have any specific knowledge or recollection of that donation?
No, I saw it I saw that it was reported. I don't know.
With respect to Ms. Maxwell, and you just touched on it briefly, she told DOJ last July that she was, quote, very central to the startup of the Clinton Global Initiative. Would you agree with that characterization? I can ask you to limit your answer to your knowledge at the time.
At the time, I did not know it.
That in 2004, Ms. Maxwell arranged a $1 million payment to an events company called Publicist Group, and that the payment may have had some connection with the first Clinton Global Initiative conference in 2005. The reporting suggests that Mr. Epstein may have been involved with the payment or somehow aware of the payment. Do you have any specific memory or knowledge or recollection of the $1 million payment I just described?
No.
at a Clinton Global Initiative conference, Ms. Maxwell was recognized as a Commitment to Action partner for her work on behalf of the Terramar Project, which was an ocean conservation nonprofit that she founded in 2012.
Oh, Flag Magnet's going to be so happy about that question.
Do you have any memory or knowledge of that conference?
I do. She was still with Ted Wade, and he was still heavily involved in ocean work. So that was sort of an incentive, but she had organized this group whose objective was to, in effect, take two massive islands made of metal and junk out of the Atlantic.
Did you have any personal role in Ms. Maxwell's recognition at that event? Or would that have
No, I
been-
might have been in her room by the time she got it, but it was, no, they put the recognition in that room. I remember this specifically because it was where all the ocean freaks were, all the people that cared about this, that wanted to be.
You had dinner with Ms. Maxwell and others in Los Angeles at a vegan restaurant called Crossroads Kitchen. That dinner may have been organized by your then Deputy Chief of Staff, John Davidson, perhaps around 20 guests. Do you have any recollection of the dinner I just described?
I had a lot of dinners like that in Los Angeles, so I don't remember that specific one, but whenever I went to Los Angeles, I tended to have a dinner someplace in public with a lot of my friends, just to keep in touch with them.
When was the last time you had any form of communication with Ms. Maxwell?
I think it must be a decade ago, and maybe even longer, I don't know, but it was a long time.
Okay, and just for the record, real quick, the Publicis Group was founded in 2006. It's a premier global advertising and communications holding company, ranking this as the world's largest by revenue as of 2024 to 2025. Headquartered in Paris, it provides services in marketing, digital business transformation, and public relations, operating in over 100 countries with over 100,000 employees. It operates under a power of one model, integrating services across the main hubs: Publicis Communications, Publicis Media, Publicis Sapient, and Publicis Health. Boy, those are quite the four topics to be involved in, aren't they?
The only conversation I had with President Trump about this was in the early 2000s. And I have no information that he did anything wrong. I just want it all out there. I want everybody to get it all out there and let everybody see where we are.
And had you had any conversations with him since the early 2000s about this subject matter?
No. Ludnick runs a big company and has made a lot of money and has supported him strongly. I don't think he believes that he's done anything bad enough to. I think he thinks he took his family to the island and he couldn't have done anything wrong. That's what I think he thinks.
Oh my God, y'all. And it is so gross. Like, if you go back and watch any of the videos we've done on Epstein so far, typically I'm going through this stuff with Flack so I don't go crazy. But if you look through what has been done, like, they don't even try to hide it. They redact all the Trump stuff. They had the FBI flag Trump stuff. They had them put Trump stuff aside. Is it illegal? I don't know yet. It's certainly morally questionable. And I put a link to our previous video we had done on the Look of the Year contest and Karen Mulder that got taken down for like a 2-minute strike, and it was very difficult to fight that and get it back up, but we did get it back up. Small bit of it is edited out. But if you're on the fence about was Trump involved in any of this stuff, check out that video. It doesn't prove that Trump was involved with this stuff, but it does prove that Trump would put himself in positions where there would be girls not of age Even if you take his side and say he would have never done anything like that. The question then becomes, what grown man puts himself in a situation alone with a girl like that? So that the allegations could be made, even if you say it wasn't true. So he had no problem with that behavior. And then Clinton talks about this team of lawyers. Well, not Clinton, I'm sorry. The representative talks about this team of lawyers that was working on getting girls not of age from European countries over to the United States. So there are it's actually legal ways still, apparently, to do this. If you look at, pulled up the numbers from the last available study. In the United States, over 200,000 minors were married between 2000 and 2018. Most cases, the bulk of those cases, are adult men marrying teenage girls. There's been a lot of reform in the last decade, but there's still teenagers marrying grown men in some states in the country. A legal way to be a sicko. It's insane. In the United States, over 200,000 minors were married between 2000 and 2018. Most cases, the bulk of those cases, are adult men marrying teenage girls.
There's some intelligence issues, national security issues. I think the rest of it ought to be gotten out, and I think we just need to get to a point where we can put this behind us. And then I think I hope you can and will help build us a system that works in America the way our international system works best in trying to identify and stop human trafficking and trying to make people whole once they've been damaged.
And not a question, but just in response, the law is very clear about the identities of the victims. Yeah. Unfortunately, the Department of Justice has wrongfully released some of that information.
Like, still showing his ignorance. Make these people whole again. You think that's possible? After these things have been done to them? To make them whole again? Just, these people are so out of touch with what the rest of us, the reality that the rest of us are dealing with.
Including personally identifiable information while illegally redacting names.
Think some money is going to make her whole? Fucking stupid.
Kill me for saying this, but I think it's important to see. I think it is entirely possible that people in the Justice Department, I don't agree with on nearly anything, right? But when it's possible that they didn't intentionally cover some of this stuff up. But it's hard to accept that when you look at the other problems in dealing with the information.
Really, it's like the Clintons that keep trying to turn into this like holy crusade where they're going to stop trafficking. Like, no, we're here to talk about your involvement, not your message and narrative you're trying to get out to people.
Young, why would Epstein say that about you?
Are you asking his opinion? You're asking him to think about why Mr. Epstein would say something about him?
Why would Epstein say that about
So she's asking you to try to be in Mr. Epstein's mind and guess at what Mr. Epstein would have thought about.
Clinton likes them young, referring to girls.
First of all, that's not true.
What's not true?
That I have any interest in underage.
I didn't say underage, I said young.
But it's still not true.
Is an intern young?
Yes.
Okay.
At my age, anybody younger than I am.
Did you know Jeffrey Epstein instructed a witness to deny you were ever on his island?
He didn't have to since I was never there.
Did you ever travel to Zorro Ranch?
Is that the one in New Mexico?
Yes.
No.
Okay, have you ever flown on anyone else's private jet 26 times or more for overseas trips?
I have flown as many miles on other jets, but never with as many stops.
How many other people's planes have you used, like Epstein 26 times or miles, etc.?
I don't know. I did with Steve Bing, who's now deceased.
How many dinners did you have with Ghislaine Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein in attendance?
She's asking to the best of your recollection.
I have no idea.
Okay, did you ever discuss sexual misconduct allegations made against you with Epstein or Maxwell?
Never.
Did Epstein or Maxwell ever offer to help manage or silence women who made sexual misconduct allegations against you?
No.
Did Epstein or Maxwell ever offer financial support directly or indirectly to legal defense funds related to impeachment proceedings or civil actions against you?
Not to my knowledge.
Did you ever think that all these women around Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell was odd, unusual, weird, or creepy?
There weren't all that many around when I was there.
How many would you say is not all that many?
I think on this big plane that was working long hours, having 2 to 4 people on there, I thought was, as far as I knew, they were all helping.
Flight attendants in tank tops and jeans, right?
No.
Do you believe you were a victim of a Jeffrey Epstein intel operation? Do you think that you might have been caught up in some of what he was maybe potentially doing?
Excuse me, Congressman, which question are you asking?
I'm asking
Intel
if the-
operation?
First of all, I don't.
Some type of intel operation. I'm just curious because it's been speculated on today and yesterday
understand.
that he may have been an intel asset. Do you think, perhaps knowing what we know now, the proclivity of it all, that he may have been targeting you as part of an intel operation?
I doubt it.
Okay. How many times did Ghislaine Maxwell visit your home in Chappaqua?
I have no idea.
Who invited her?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how. She may have been.
Mr. President, that's it.
Okay.
Hillary had political events there.
Okay. So is it to your knowledge, was she at your home in Chappaqua likely because your wife had her over for Senate events? That's what you testified earlier today, correct?
That's not what he testified, but please ask the
I would
question
like
as
him
to
to
what he would
clarify.
actually, thank you, I appreciate that.
I do not know. But if you are implying the reverse, I will volunteer something. She was never at my house in Chappaqua for any personal reasons.
If you were aware in 2008 that Jeffrey Epstein was having sex with kids, and you knew of his close association with Ghislaine Maxwell, why would you still associate with Ghislaine Maxwell, who you dub essentially like your Doug Band? She was the body man to Epstein, Doug Band was the body man to you, and why would you allow Ghislaine Maxwell to associate with your daughter up until, 2004, 2015? You knew he was a bad guy. Why would you allow your
So,
daughter
excuse me, what's the period in which you're saying he would have known that Jeffrey Epstein was
After
a bad guy?
2008, so up until Ghislaine Maxwell was involved with CGI until what, 2015? And we confirmed today that he had a dinner with Ghislaine Maxwell in LA in 2014. So he's still hanging out with a close associate, the closest associate to convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein.
But
excuse me.
I guess my question is why?
Yes, the question, excuse me, is the question why Ghislaine Maxwell came to the wedding? Is that the question?
No, that was, I didn't even bring up the wedding.
Okay,
Why are
sorry.
you about this game? Are you putting words in my mouth? You're smarter than that.
No, let me
Thank you.
finish. I think, first of all, when the wedding occurred, she was with Ted White, and she was for several more years. We did not know when Epstein was arrested that she was still involved with him. I think that clears a lot of this up. We didn't know. Yeah.
How do you think Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein duped so many powerful and smart people, fully connected, powerful people all around the world?
I really don't know. But I don't know. I've thought about it a lot.
Mr. President.
And if you can figure it out, I'd like to know. But
Thank you, Mr. President. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Ms. Luna from Florida. Mr. President, I just wanted to do a couple of follow-ups. Regarding your personal conversations with Mr. Epstein, you said that he wanted to discuss economic and political questions. Was there ever a particular region of the world or topics that he wanted to reoccur and address?
I do remember that he was interested in the two places that I was setting up the AIDS mark in Asia and Africa. In Asia, he wanted to know if I thought it was going to be the Asian century and the thing would be sustainable. And in Africa, he wanted to know whether I believed that you could have broad-based prosperity there, whether they could achieve something that they'd never achieved before.
It seems that Mr. Epstein also had asked a similar question about America's prosperity and economic policy. Did you feel that when he was asking questions, particularly maybe pertaining to the regulation of our stock market and or derivative trading, did he on a number of occasions come back to that and maybe pick your brain about policy or future policy here in the United States?
No more than any other big issue. I knew that, everybody lives in New York with money, and look at, he made his money advising Les Wexner, so he had to be interested in markets.
Okay, and then I know that Ghislaine was a little bit more probably chatty with you. Did she ever share a similar interest to Mr. Epstein on economics or political topics of discussion? Were there any reoccurring topics that you felt that she was wanting to focus on?
Not that I noticed.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. President.
During your relationship or the time that you knew Mr. Epstein, what did you understand his job to be?
I'm not sure I knew. It was never clear to me. But he could have been living on investing the profits he'd already made. I knew he was a finance guy.
And you just testified to Les Wexner being one of his clients. Did he ever make any other representations about who his clients were?
No, but I never asked either.
During the time that you knew him, did Epstein ever provide you with financial advice?
No.
Did he ever provide you with tax advice?
No.
Did you ever personally receive money from Mr. Epstein?
No.
Did Mr. Epstein ever loan you money in your personal capacity?
Not to my knowledge.
So to be clear, did you ever exchange money with Mr. Epstein?
Not that I remember. I don't believe I did.
This is email from Virginia Giuffre, an Epstein victim, that alleged that you walked into Vanity Fair and threatened them not to write sex trafficking articles about your good friend, Jeffrey Epstein. Mr. President, is this true?
No. No. Not no, hell no. Not close, no.
To be clear, you have not had any direct contact with Epstein after his arrest in 2006, is that right?
That's correct.
After his arrest or after the publication of when he went to jail in 2008? Can you just clarify the dates there?
I will ask another question. To be clear, you have not had any direct contact with Epstein after his arrest and when he was incarcerated in 2008?
Yes, to the best of my memory, that's correct.
That one's not hell no?
Are you aware of any effort by Epstein to contact you while he was incarcerated in Florida?
I'm not.
Mr. President, who is Arnold Paul Prosperi?
I think that he's a son of a guy I went to Georgetown with.
So, according to jail logs, Mr. Prosperi visited Epstein at least 20 times while Epstein was incarcerated in Palm Beach County Jail between 2008 and 2009. Based on what you just said, is it your testimony that you believe that to be the son of the man you went to college with?
It could be.
But he didn't talk to me.
Mr. Epstein was indicted by a grand jury on July 19th, 2006. According to an IRS Form 990 filed by the COUQ Foundation, a known Epstein entity, Mr. Epstein donated $25,000 to the William J. Clinton Foundation one day prior to Mr. Epstein's indictment. Are you aware of this donation?
I know that they told me that the records showed that he'd given $25,000.
When did you become aware of that, Mr. President? Were you aware of that then or in preparation?
No, now. I mean, when I was preparing for this.
Yes, sir. Did you solicit that donation from Mr. Epstein?
Not personally, I didn't know.
Did someone else solicit it?
I have no idea.
Did anyone affiliated with Epstein, including Ms. Maxwell, contact you on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein to discuss his arrest and the allegations against him?
No.
Epstein or Ms. Maxwell ever asked you for their assistance once Epstein was in trouble?
No.
Or once Ms. Maxwell was in trouble?
No.
Did Jeffrey Epstein ever attempt to contact you while he was incarcerated in Florida?
No.
He didn't attempt ever to contact you?
Not as far as I know, no.
You didn't really know how he made his money? I mean, he had a big plane and...
I knew that he had made an extraordinary amount of money from Les Wexner, who was quite wealthy. I had no idea whether he had made enough to support the lifestyle that I saw.
And I assume you're aware Mr. Wexner testified under oath that he acted like he really didn't know Jeffrey Epstein very well, and which is kind of hard to believe because he paid him a lot of money and
Yeah, he made it.
Yeah.
But you never know.
In the past, we followed the money. We've subpoenaed bank records. We've subpoenaed suspicious activity reports from Treasury. Those were some of the things Ms. Clinton suggested. And in order to do that, obviously, we have to subpoena banks, specific banks for specific accounts. Do you ever recall in the conversations you had with Mr. Epstein any particular bank that he was affiliated with, or any particular big banks that maybe he had deals going?
No. He never asked me about that.
Okay.
Is that with respect to the dinner with Ms. Maxwell in Los Angeles, you were not actually sure whether or not that dinner occurred?
That's
Is that correct? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
I'm struggling because it's hard to know exactly what I knew when I knew it, given what I've learned since.
It's just so hard when you
It's
lie
become
so much
kind of
to
a
keep them straight.
Compelling challenge. But I've tried to tell you what I knew then, and when you ask what I think now,
No, you're not.
I think you have, all of you, Mr. Chairman, you've had a chronologically challenging thing. You've got all the stuff that happened with Jeffrey Epstein, some of it as regards to President Trump going back to the late 90s. And that's a long time ago. And then what we learned later. So it's been difficult, but I have enjoyed it. You've been very respectful to me and given me a chance to talk to you.
Well, we thank you for your time.
And I wish you well. I still will say, if you can think of some things to do that will reduce the incidence of trafficking in America, and it should be possible for us to virtually eliminate underage abuse.
Well, if you thought that was bad, I'm really trying to give a boost to my ratings here by covering this, folks. Here is the beloved, the highly sought after Hillary Clinton.
Howard Lutnick missed being a victim because he was delayed dropping his child off to kindergarten. You asked the question. I'm going to answer your question.
Now you're going to yell
This
at
was
me?
what I spent
You're
my
going to yell at me.
time doing.
I'm a survivor trying to look out for other
Well,
survivors trying to
and
protect
I
them.
was taking care
You
of
waited
the
6
people
months
who
to get
lost
here today.
3,000
6 months,
lives
and now you're being
at World
defiant
Trade
and
Center.
indignant today.
You asked me
I have
about
met
Howard
with Epstein
Lutnick.
survivors. I'm a survivor myself. You have emails. You've denied that Jeffrey Epstein, that you tried to get Jeffrey Epstein to give money to you.
I did
but
not.
Howard Lutnick was
If
used
you
to
have an
get
email
money.
with me asking Jeffrey Epstein
I have
for
an
money,
email from Howard Lutnick sending it to
what's
Jeffrey
the
Epstein
question?
and his people to
I
raise
don't-
money for
I don't
you
know about-
for an event, an intimate event for you at his offices
Well,
at Cantor Fitzgerald. You're going to sit
if
here
you-
today
if you would
and,
let me
and,
finish.
and obfuscate and say to this committee, you didn't try to get money from Jeffrey
I
Epstein
didn't.
when
I
there was
didn't.
an intimate event in an email that Howard Lutnick emailed to Epstein's people and Epstein to get him to come to your intimate event at Cantor Fitzgerald, a very small event. And so I'm not going to public. You want to yell at me, that's fine, but I'll yell right back.
Well,
okay? I am looking out for
it's
survivors.
very-
I'm doing
look.
the job that you would not do and refuse to do as Secretary of State. Thank you, and I yield back to
No,
Congresswoman.
I'm going to finish answering the question, which I have a right to do. I am very sympathetic to your personal situation. I have read about it. I have seen you testify or speak on the floor about it. I was a senator representing the people who were murdered on 9/11. Nobody lost more people than Howard Lutnick. You can say whatever you want. You can call him and have him appear before the committee. But I knew him as the man who lost the employees that he knew intimately, including his brother.
And he was a
So
double
I
threat between
worked.
you and
Let
Jeffrey
her finish
Epstein
her
raising
answer,
money for
please.
you.
Let her finish her answer.
You know what? If you don't want to hear what emotionally affected me, that's fine. But that's why I know Howard Lutnick.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
President Clinton has stated that he severed ties with Epstein around 2005, prior to 2008 conviction. Were you involved or informed of any communication, emails, calls, or meetings related to distancing the foundation and or your family after those 2008 convictions?
I was not.
You had mentioned that this committee had avoided calling people to testify who should be sitting here. I would like to show you some emails. If the staff could please pass out to the members and the secretary, EFTA 00878421.
Thank you for a fun night. Your littlest girl was a little naughty.
How does that make you feel?
Makes me sick.
If you can also read the EFTA 00878421. This is also another email. Can you just please provide the context? It's an email to Jeffrey Epstein. If you could just read the context of what it is.
Of course, the Ohio Jesus, I'm coming trick.
And just the main body of the context of the email.
Said that she felt God's presence next to her when she was in bed. She knows that Jesus watches over her and he helped save her life. Whoops.
How does that make you feel?
It's bizarre. I don't know what it means.
The reason I asked you to read both of these is because these emails were both sent by co-conspirators that were then given the plea deals and now have been given victim status. Both of these women were also named an FBI document, and they're on a number of other emails. Do you believe that the Department of Justice should reevaluate the plea deals for some of these women, given that, as you can see, they have clearly done some things probably that they shouldn't have?
I don't know the status of whether that would be legally possible, so I have no opinion.
I think outside of the statute of limitations, they might be able to reinvestigate under the civil rights violations. Would you be in favor of that, or looking into any of the co-conspirators that were given plea deals down to victim status if there's credible evidence that they were trafficking young girls?
I think it should be pursued.
Secretary Clinton, this was actually out of an FBI briefing document when Epstein was in his New York trial. If you can look at the top left, the individual photo, who is that individual?
I can't tell. It's such a small, blurry picture.
Okay. For those that want to pull up the file, the photos of Jeffrey Epstein, this is actually a passport that was given. The individual's name is Marcus Robert Fortinelli. Do you think that this is a sign or a telltale sign of intelligence operations and pseudonyms?
I can't speculate. I don't know.
Is it possible?
I have no direct knowledge, but can't speculate. I don't know.
Okay, and on the topic of transparency, Secretary, were you ever denied access or did you ever inquire on the topic of UAP or Gilgamesh in your official or personal capacity, and why?
I was never denied access because I never asked for access. Subject to any national security implications, I think the information should be made available.
Luna was the one that asked about the Gilgamesh documents and should citizens have access to UAP, UFO files.
Do you believe that you were personally a target of an intelligence gathering operation specifically pertaining to Ghislaine Maxwell or Jeffrey Epstein?
I have no reason to believe that. I don't have any information.
Okay.
We all get accused of things. The higher you go up in the ladder, the more people are accusing things. If I don't have anything to hide, I'm eager to come in and testify. I just find that interesting. Why the delay for 6 months?
Well, I think, as I've said, we negotiated in good faith, and I believe the committee negotiated in good faith for a while because we thought, at least I'll speak for myself, that I could provide whatever information I had, which was not much, in the same form that you accepted it from former attorneys general and FBI directors who had much more direct knowledge, or could have had much more direct knowledge about the investigation you were conducting. And I found it bewildering that I couldn't provide what I knew in writing under penalty of perjury, as others had done.
When did you first meet Jeffrey Epstein?
I never met Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay. When did you first meet Ghislaine Maxwell?
I have no recollection of when I first
met.
met.
She's totally met Jeffrey Epstein. The next day, her husband was like, "Oh yeah, there was that one picture. I guess she did meet him one time, just one time, but she forgot." Like, that's how easy it is for this lady to lie. Just straight to your face, looking you right in your eyes. No, never met him. Yes, you have. Probably on several occasions.
Might have met her, but you don't remember.
I do not.
Okay. So you'd obviously describe your relationship as pretty much non-existent with both of them.
Yeah, I had at least a casual acquaintance with her. I had nothing with him.
Okay. And then he visited the White House as we've said, I think ad nauseum 17 times from 93 to 95. And then in 99, a $20,000 donation to Senate campaign or an affiliate allied campaign. And then in 2006, 25 grand to the Clinton Foundation. And then post-Clinton presidency, your husband was on the plane somewhere in the neighborhood of 26 times. You've met hundreds of thousands of people, probably way more than the average typical person would. And my point here is all these millions of people that supported you and your husband, hundreds of thousands that you met. In 2010, one of the most significant events of your life is going to be your only daughter's wedding. You have 500 wedding guests from all reports. That means, and there's a groom involved, so you're distilling down to 250. Only 250 people can attend. And it's your testimony that, how did Ms. Maxwell end up at the wedding?
She was the guest of Ted Waite, who was a longtime friend of our family.
So it was just an odd coincidence that she was at one of the most. No, I mean, that's fine. If that's your testimony, that's your testimony.
I was not telling my dates who their guests could, or my guests who their dates could be.
It's just an odd coincidence. Okay.
50 years.
He's a pretty smart guy by all accounts. Would you agree with that? Highly intelligent. I think he is. I didn't vote for him, but I think he is.
Then I will.
We can agree on that. I mean, I don't think that's controversial.
She can't just answer. She thinks her husband's smart.
Met that has met your husband and has firsthand experience describes him as the smartest guy in the room when you're in the room. Very smart, scary recall. Like if he meets you 20 years later, he remembers what you wore, what they were saying, which is a great tool and asset when you're a politician. I don't think that's so. With this great recall, I'm sure it served him well in his political career. So I just find it surprising that on January 26th, y'all sent a joint letter from you and him where he asserted that he, quote, didn't recall encountering Mr. Epstein or any specific interactions with him while in office.
That was his recollection.
Okay. But even though we've established that he was in the White House, Epstein, I'm talking about 17 times, and there's a public report that there were personal tours given, not only the White House, but even the residence, and somebody that smart just happened not to remember any of it.
This witness can answer questions about her own declaration, about what she recalls or knew. Again, the president is going to be here tomorrow.
All right, well, your client talked about patterns in practice, and Bill Clinton, her husband, said that he doesn't remember meeting Epstein during his time in office. Took trips with him, or took trips on his plane to New York, England, Japan, China, Singapore, Bangkok, Brunei, Rwanda, Mozambique, South Africa, France, Norway, and many more. So it's really not a question of where they went together, but where they didn't go together. To your knowledge, did your husband ever visit Little St. James Island?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Do you know who Doug Band is?
He worked for my husband, yes.
So by reports on the press, he was a key architect of the Bill Clinton post-presidency, a top aide, the body man, the fixer, a counselor, and a close advisor. Would you disagree with any of those?
He worked for him in a number of capacities.
About 10 years, 02 to 12, I think it was.
He worked for him, I
Decade, give or
don't
take.
know.
Give or take,
I
fair
can't
to say,
answer that.
give or take a decade? Okay. He's on the record as asserting that Mr. Clinton did indeed visit Epstein Island. Do you think he's lying?
Yes.
Virginia, I'm sure you didn't meet her, but have you heard of Virginia Giuffre?
I've heard about her in
She
the
was
press
I
coverage.
didn't ever meet her.
Yeah.
She was a victim of Epstein. Tragically, she didn't survive. She's no longer with us. She testified under oath that she saw Mr. Clinton on Epstein Island 2 separate occasions. You think she's lying? Or at least
I have no information.
You were asked if Jeffrey Epstein played a role in shaping the Clinton Global Initiative. Is it correct to say that you have mentioned that you do not know whether this was the case or not?
I have no information.
We have a letter, of course, from Epstein's lawyer stating that he was, and I quote, was part of the original group that conceived the Clinton Global Initiative. If you do not know, who would know?
I don't know because I was not involved. Donations were made. Lots of donations. Many individuals, groups, businesses, philanthropies have donated to the Clinton Global Initiative.
Sure. Yeah.
Some of it was spontaneous. Some of it was through the team that helps to raise money. It's a combination of supporting charitable work.
Do you know if Jeffrey Epstein was involved in helping?
I have
find
no
donors,
reason to
recruit
believe
donors?
that. I don't know.
You don't know if he was involved in donor relations in any way?
I have no, as I say, reason to believe it, but I don't know.
Do you know who would know?
The people who were involved in raising the money, but I was not involved with CGI in those early years.
What about what about when you were there?
I have no knowledge that Jeffrey Epstein was involved at all.
How many roughly staff members are there in the Clinton Global Initiative?
It has varied over the years,
Sure.
but hundreds,
And involved with donor relations?
dozens, I suppose.
Dozens? Okay. As best as we know, it's been publicly reported that in 2024, Ghislaine Maxwell, or Ghislaine, I think is how it's pronounced, arranged and wired $1 million to Publicis Group for the inaugural CGI event, referring it to it internally as, quote, the Clinton Project. Epstein was copied on related emails and questioned the timing and destinations of the funds. Were you aware of this $1 million payment?
I was not.
Were you aware of it before today?
No, well, in preparing for
in
this.
preparation, you were made know. Okay. Do you know who would have known?
I don't even know if it's true, so I have no way
okay.
of telling you.
You don't know who at the Clinton Global Initiative, what staff would have handled $1 million donors or
It didn't go. It went to a group called Publicis,
Right.
which is not the Clinton Global Initiative, so
Right,
I would
right.
not know.
Okay. Well, the email said it was for the Clinton Project, so.
First of all, I have no idea whether that's true, and secondly, it went to a third party.
Okay. Maxwell was honored and given complimentary access at the 2013 CGI conference for, quote, ocean conservation work, years after public allegations against her and Epstein were public. Were you involved in approving participants or honorees at the CGI events?
I was not, but I don't know that there were public allegations at that point in time, so I can't respond to that.
So you were not involved in approval?
I was not.
You didn't know who was going to be honored at the events?
No, I was not.
Okay. Do you know who would have known?
Whoever was the staff at the time, but there's been a lot of staff turnover over, 20 plus years.
I mean, you're
Please let the witness finish.
It's okay.
Cutting her off.
I've told you all I know, which is that I did not know.
There's dozens of pieces of information that create a pattern, and you're here because that pattern causes us to have questions to understand.
What are your questions? Did I know anything about his crimes? I've told you, no, I did not. Did I know anything about her crimes? No, I did not. Was I in a position of responsibility to investigate those crimes? No, I was not. I don't know.
It's okay.
I don't know how many times he visited. I've been told, but I don't know for my own information or personal experience.
Yeah, apparently he was there 17 times, but at least there's more than a dozen. All right, Secretary Clinton, did you ever ask Ms. Maxwell about the validity of the Epstein crimes when he was first accused?
I don't recall any conversation with her about that.
And how well did you know her?
Not very well.
And did Ms. Maxwell's nephew, Mr. Alexander Gerazi, I may be saying that wrong, work for your 2008 campaign?
As I said earlier, he volunteered for my campaign. He did a good job. My campaign staff hired him. He was an excellent employee, and then he had a very relevant educational background and went to work in the State Department.
And Secretary Clinton, was Ms. Maxwell nephew, Mr. Alexander Gerazi, hired by the State Department shortly after you became Secretary of State?
Yes, he was.
And Secretary Clinton, by all accounts at this time of his hiring, Mr. Alexander Gerazi had limited foreign policy experience. Was he hired as a favor for Mrs. Maxwell?
Not at all. I had no idea that he was related to her, and I have absolutely no recollection or reason to believe that she was at all involved.
If I take you at your word, or we take you at your word, you let Epstein and his close associates, close to your family, close to the Clinton Foundation, do you feel like you made a mistake?
I never met him, so I have no way of, judging. I never met him, and I wish he'd been stopped in 2008 instead of given a slap on the wrist like he was.
Thank you.
They have a Secret Service A team, and they have a Secret Service B team. And so, that means they probably have a C and D and E, and however crooked your president is, you need more teams. So it's that the Secret Service A team could go on record under oath, not lying, saying we never accompanied Bill to that island. Never happened. And they're telling the truth. But that's because we don't know who was on the Secret Service B team, who is the team he would have taken to a place like the island.
And maybe they'll hear it
We'll
this
double
time.
clarify that as far as you know, your husband did not separate himself from his Secret Service detail in order to fly on Mr. Epstein's plane.
They're very careful saying he never signed off on Secret Service detail. Well, that's a very particular. See, you could just say yes or no, right? Yes, he did, or no, he didn't. Instead, the answer is my husband never signed off on Secret Service detail. Of course not. He didn't have to. He went with the B team that will never have to testify. How these people sleep at night, I wonder.
Mr. Epstein received his sweetheart deal. As far as you know, was former Attorney General Gonzalez required to physically come in for his deposition as you are today?
As far as I know, former Attorney General Gonzalez was not required to come in. He gave a statement. It would be useful for the committee to probe the information that was available between Alex Acosta and the Department of Justice during that period of time when Jeffrey Epstein was charged with crimes.
This is so crazy. Like, they're just slapping us in the face with the gaslighting. Let's go off record. Ask the real questions.
All right, we'll go on the record.
God.
It is 4:17 in the afternoon. Mr. Burleson has a few questions for you.
So I'm going to begin with some lighthearted, different questions. And you're welcome to ignore them or if you want to, but
here we go.
While I have you here, I just have to ask. So when your husband was president, it was Lawrence Rockefeller had an effort to try to disclose UFOs, UAPs. When you were running for president, John Podesta publicly stated that you would disclose these files if given the chance, if you had been president. Are you pleased to see that these files may be disclosed finally?
I am pleased. As I say, I think they have to be carefully scrutinized so that no national security information is disclosed. But this is an issue of real importance to so many people, and I think whatever can be disclosed should be disclosed.
And I welcome anything that will sidetrack this hearing from what we're actually here about.
There a program that specifically that was referencing that you were aware of?
I was not. As you mentioned, John Podesta, who was one of my advisors, was deeply interested in the issue, and if I had been elected, I certainly would have listened to his advice.
Well, thank you for your indulgence on that. As you know, Alexander Acosta, who gave Epstein the 2009 plea deal, he said, whenever he was asked, that he belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
I think you've answered this before, but if you could answer more directly, were you or anyone in the Obama administration, through your role in the State Department, or even afterwards in the Clinton Foundation, ever briefed on Epstein having any U.S. intelligence ties?
I was not.
Were you ever briefed of him having any foreign intelligence ties?
I was not.
Okay. Epstein.
Okay, but so this guy is slithering around with these world leaders, just like a snake with Maxwell. And our intelligence agencies didn't catch this and at least brief the Clintons, like, hey, you might want to look out for this guy. But what the hell are they doing? I mean, that seems pretty basic. Your job is to protect the presidency. Seems like that would be an assessment they would make and communicate.
Filed a FOIA request in 2011 seeking any CIA records about himself. That would have been during your time as Secretary of State. So through your role, were you made aware of that FOIA request?
I was not.
Okay.
Was it ever responded to?
That's a good question.
I know nothing about it.
They haven't responded to us on our FOIA requests. So. In 2014, Epstein met with William Burns, who was then a senior State Department official and later a CIA director.
Excuse me, could you say what year that was again?
In 2014.
In 2014, he met with William Burns?
Mm-hmm. Epstein met with William Burns. As the Secretary of State at that time, were you aware of that meeting?
I wasn't Secretary of State in 2014.
Okay. Were you aware of the meeting with Mr. Burns? Okay. And finally, Ghislaine Maxwell's father was Robert Maxwell, who was widely reported as being Mossad or MI6 intelligence asset. Did in any of your conversations with Maxwell or people connected to her, did they ever mention Robert Maxwell's intelligence background or any ongoing foreign or domestic intelligence connections through your conversations or interactions?
I have never talked to anybody about whether that is true or not. I don't know.
You know what I would love to see? Not that SNL is funny anymore, but I would love to see an SNL skit where these people get together like outside of a oversight hearing and are talking to each other like they talk to each other here. They're like, could you pass the sugar? And the guy's like, Hold on a minute, I must confer with my attorney. What happens if we pass the sugar? The attorney breaks out the book. Well, there was this instance in 99. They could hold you liable for that if you say anything about passing the sugar or even taking the action of passing the sugar. I'm sorry, I don't see any sugar. Fucking insanity, bro. We've watched them take 5 to 10 minutes to answer yes or no to a question. A simple question. This is so obviously obfuscation and political theater and fucking nonsense. And I'm just hoping to God that there's something in these 9 hours of depositions where we will catch them in a lie. And they can't back out of it. Oh, there's a video? Well, then yeah. Okay. Woosah. Sorry, y'all.
In Morocco, in 2002. It's also been documented that Epstein was there, as well as Maxwell. At that time, she would have been 21, maybe 22 years old. Do you have any concerns, or have you asked your daughter about any maybe potential inappropriate
all of
activity?
these questions about concerns that predate the charges and pleas of Epstein are very hard to answer because people did not know
At the time.
Yeah. And all the questions about the contribution to the joint committee, people didn't know. I mean,
Right.
And so in retrospect, nobody would have had any contact with someone like that. And those people who continued to have contact with him after he pled guilty are in a different group because that happened, and they still maintain contact with him.
He's
I think
just
we're all
building a
experiencing
Dr.
that, where
Evil
we're
Island.
having a revelation
And
of what
nobody
we
thought
didn't
anything
know
weird
at the
about it.
time, but in reflecting back, certainly it's appropriate to ask questions. Have you had a conversation with her? Was there any inappropriate activity during that time?
At the time, nothing was known and nothing untoward occurred. And then there was no further contact with him, so I can't really speculate about that further. I think you can agree that he committed crimes. He was not fully held accountable for them, which could have stopped his predatory practices, perhaps, that continued for quite some time afterwards.
Perhaps.
And then he was finally indicted for serious crimes, and he was in prison, and then he mysteriously died. And with her, she was, finally indicted, tried, and convicted. And I think you have to look at it in the chronological way in which it unfolded.
And she said he
I think that there's
mysteriously
varying
died.
degrees of culpability. She was certainly going beyond just being silent in her knowledge about the horrible acts that he was doing, but she was actually enabling him.
That's what she was convicted of.
That's right. But if she had not been enabling, if she had
can
not
at
been
least
taking those
see
steps,
her
if she had just been
puppies now.
silent,
That's the important thing.
I'm
Because she
asking,
cooperated.
would you agree that she would be culpable as well, just in her silence?
I have no information about that, so I'm not going to speculate.
Okay. All right. With that, I'm done. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Person's like, I'm out. Bullshit.
This is sort of like off subject, but didn't you all require in the latest defense authorization that the UFO information has to be?
Oh, okay. She brought it up again.
They killed it.
Oh, I thought that had gone through.
That was my amendment, and it got ripped out.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know that, so thank you for enlightening me. Okay.
Yeah, they've been.
Okay, folks. So remember when she came out that day and she was bitching? She could not. The fucking gall of them to ask her about UFOs.
It then got, at the end, quite unusual because I started being asked about UFOs and a series of questions about Pizzagate, one of the most vile, bogus conspiracy theories that was propagated on the internet.
And here she is. And she is the one bringing up UFOs. There was definitely a pattern in the Bill Clinton answers where unless you had a direct photo or video or testimony from a reliable source, he was not going to admit to anything, and he was not going to volunteer any information.
Lawyers, these are lawyers. She defended a teacher who was accused of some really terrible things to a 12-year-old.
I think you even called it, said she's probably the one that brought up the UFO stuff. Oh, hey, look, here she is bringing up the UFO. So a representative did ask about it earlier, but they were done with that question a few questions ago. So the fact that she brings it up again and then goes outside afterwards and bitches about them bringing up UFOs is like, of course.
We had a bit of a challenge in the beginning because we had agreed upon rules based on the fact it was going to be a closed hearing at their demand, and one of the members violated that rule.
So Hillary here's saying, they just had no idea, Black. Before he was charged, they just had no clue. And I was here losing my shit because it's like, how could you not have a clue? You are in the White House. You have two major intelligence agencies supposed to be looking after you. Not to mention the Secret Service, Capitol Police. Like, you have all of these ears to the ground. So to ask us to believe they didn't have any clue what was going on back then, before he was charged, we just knew nothing. Shut the fuck up. Yes, you did. You heard the rumors. You heard people talking. You had briefings. I mean, you're lying about it now, but there's no way. Because if that's true, then our government's worse off than I thought.
Congressman, I don't interrupt you, but I don't understand the question.
So my question is, did your daughter discuss it with you? That was my particular question.
I can't recollect any specific conversation, but of course we discussed the horrific crimes that he was accused of.
But nothing about her father's connection to it.
Her father's connection began and ended before he was charged with crimes.
Did your daughter ever mention to you that she discussed this matter with her father?
I don't recollect that.
Did you see the photos of your husband with young girls related to Jeffrey Epstein?
I saw the few photos that my lawyers showed me.
Did you also see the photos of your husband with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell?
I have seen such photos.
They're out there, right?
Yes.
I imagine you're familiar, but I just want to make sure. Since seeing these photos, have any questions about the content, locations, general circumstances come to your mind?
No.
Excuse me, are you asking for an opinion, or is there a fact that she can share with you that would be helpful?
Like, your husband, the ex-president, is on a tropical vacation in a pool with two young women, one of them nude, that we know of. She didn't have any thoughts about it? That's amazing. These people are fucking robots.
Example, if I saw a picture with my wife, it's just really hard to be relevant. If my wife saw pictures with me as a grown man, hanging out with obviously or close to underage women, regardless if it was before we were married or not, it would be a question. And so what I'm asking you is, did any questions regarding those photographs come to your mind?
I am going to, just as clearly as I can state, say I don't see the relevance of your question, and I am not going to talk about conversations that I had with my family, especially my husband.
I think Mr. Perry's questions directly relate
To her
the-
daughter? To what?
To her
My
husband?
state of mind?
Her state of mind?
What possible relevance does my state of mind have to your investigation?
The attorney that is representing her here, and then I believe she was also helping to represent Bill during his deposition, is also in the Epstein files. How weird. It's so gross how full of shit these people are.
Do you know the names of any of the young girls in those photos with
Whose
your
faces
husband?
are blacked out, Congressman. Correct.
I understand that. But the photos are out there.
But are you saying she should be able to know who individuals
No, I think
are
what I'm saying is that
the photos are blocking?
what I'm saying is that in a normal relationship, you would probably ask the person that you're sleeping with who that person in the photo is.
There were so many things that I would just like that to stay. I'd like that to stay on the record. Thank
A
you.
question to which you could give a factual answer.
Would be helpful.
Did you ever discuss that fact with anyone or any organization, that your husband's name appeared on the flight logs?
I don't recall. I mean, I've talked about it with my lawyers and others assisting in my preparation, but I can't recall specifics of these trips. I don't recall how I learned about them. I knew that he was traveling on a number of different planes owned by a number of different people, and I don't recollect having conversations about the planes. We talked about the work. We talked about the meetings that he had. We talked about his efforts to try to persuade countries to invest in low-cost AIDS drugs.
Did you discuss who
That's
you would
what
be
we talked
traveling
about.
with?
I did not. I don't have any recollection of that.
Of any red flags being brought to your awareness, to your family's awareness, while your husband was spending time with Jeffrey Epstein?
I have no recollection of anyone bringing any red flags to me.
No recollection. That
So
way, when
if-
someone brings
have
the
any
evidence,
of
she
the
can go, well, I just
victims,
didn't recall. But yeah, now that I
of
think about
Epstein
it.
or
Yep.
Maxwell ever reached out to you in any way?
I don't recall that.
I don't recall.
For you do not recall any reason a victim may have reached out to you or your counsel?
The question was, did she recall whether or not any
asked
victim reached out to her? And she said she did not have an awareness of that.
Did Epstein ever ask you or Mr. Clinton for any favors of any kind?
I never talked to Jeffrey Epstein.
Did Maxwell ever ask you or Mr. Clinton for favors of any kind?
She did not ask me.
Did Epstein have any connection to or association with the Clinton Foundation?
There's been the allegation that he did, but I don't have any factual basis for knowing one way or the other.
I don't know
And we
who
have
started the
discussed
foundation
today,
in our
the
name. I have no
small
idea.
amounts, donated historically, and the $20,000 to the to your campaign, the 1999 Senate campaign, $25,000 via affiliate.
Excuse me, could you state for the record, it was not to the campaign, so if you wouldn't mind just stating.
$20,000 to Hillary's 1999 Senate campaign?
No, it was a joint. It was a joint.
Okay.
State campaign.
Joint campaign, okay. In past public statements, as in 2017 speeches and interviews, you described Pizzagate as a baseless conspiracy theory, alleging you and others ran a child sex trafficking ring from a Washington pizzeria.
Oh, here comes the conspiracy theory.
Have you reviewed any 2025, 2026 Epstein files that were released that you believe reference or relate to those specific 2016 claims regarding the Podesta emails, Comet Ping Pong Pizza used as code possibly?
I'm sorry, does
You're
this
asking
relate?
her about whether she's reviewed emails in the Epstein files, which relate to the wacky Pizzagate
You
scandal.
could characterize it however you want. I just would like to know if she's familiar with any of them.
So
She's
excuse me,
commented-
your question is about whether or not she has reviewed any emails in the Epstein release files about Pizzagate.
Correct.
Pizzagate was totally made up. It was an outrageous allegation that ended up hurting a number of people, that caused a deranged young man to show up with his assault rifle and shoot up a local pizzeria. I can't believe you're even referencing it. You should be.
There are connections to the language. I'm
Well,
not
the
talking
QAnon
about-
people believe there are.
Have you or your representatives identified any Epstein file content that has been misinterpreted online to revive those claims? And what steps, if any, have you taken to clarify?
Again, objects on the ground of
I think that this is all very
speculation.
reasonable.
Well, first of all, I don't follow the crazy conspiracy stories that are online, so I have taken no steps to review anything.
Okay, just so you know, I'm not making this up. You can go to Gmail. And this is just Gmail. This isn't all the files. And search pizza. And there's 664 emails. And these aren't promotional Domino's offering you a free pizza. These are people making strange requests about pizza. So I think it's very obvious. Is it, does that mean it's related to trafficking? Not necessarily. But it's absolutely code for something. Yeah, it's to call that crazy when there's over 600 emails in the Gmail file. And even more, I'm sure, referencing pizza on the Department of Justice website. But we are crazy conspiracy theorists for calling that out.
John Podesta, your 2016 campaign chair, appears in some Epstein file contexts, social overlaps or mentions. Were you aware of any of the Podesta-related communications in the released files?
Can you please provide examples or the evidence that you would like us to review or the exhibits that reflect that in order for her to be able to do that?
get some exhibits and
Can
pause
you
questions
speak to
in the
that when you
meantime.
provide those?
I will get those, and I will skip that question until we can.
Generally, if she's aware.
Generally, she is asking if she's aware of specific information that is in the files that you all are relying on. Please provide the witness with
If your
copies of that
client
materials.
doesn't know or has no recollection, she's welcome to state so.
We're also welcome to actually see the information that you're speaking
And
to.
again, the representative is asking general.
I mean,
general
really,
questions.
I expected a lot of interesting questions today, but Pizzagate was not on my list.
Why? It appears almost 1,000 times
Okay,
in
we're
the
asking all
emails.
sorts of things here.
You certainly
why is that
are.
weird?
You certainly are.
Excuse me, I'd like the chairman's ruling. No, I'd like the chairman's ruling. Is this within the scope? Is this within the scope, Mr. Chairman?
If the chairman rules it
Within the scope.
We'll go off
the record and can talk.
Off the record. Yep. We don't need we can't have the people knowing what's actually going on.
Have you reviewed any photos, emails, or records from the released Epstein files that might refresh your recollection of any encounter, event, or introduction involving him?
Excuse me, before, you are stating that with respect to her, an interview, or with respect to what she has stated here today?
I'm asking in general, has anything that you have viewed since the release of the Epstein files brought any sort of recollection of an encounter with Epstein?
Not that I recall. I stated I did not have any involvement in that, and I did not recall seeing her there, but I have seen photos that she has been there, and in 2013, she was very active promoting this ocean work that she was doing, and apparently everybody from the UN to CNN to the TED Talk people thought it was worth giving her a platform.
So I find it notable that in 2011, Doug Band says that he directed the Clinton Foundation staff to bar Maxwell from receiving an invite to CGI or the Clinton Foundation events. I would like to know who overruled Doug Band's suggestion to bar Maxwell.
Based on hearsay, states facts not in evidence. You can ask the witness if she knows anything about that.
I know nothing about that.
Has he ever connected someone to meet with you?
Not that I'm aware of.
So Chelsea met Glenn Maxwell through Ted Waite as well?
I believe that's right.
And I believe you testified earlier, Ted Waite's been a family friend for like 30 years or something to that effect.
Early 90s, yes.
And so to be clear, you never discussed Miss Maxwell's relationship with Mr. Waite.
Not that I recall. You know, shortly, as my memory is that shortly after the wedding, on July 31st, 2010, shortly after that, they broke up. And shortly after that, he married somebody else. I know nothing about the relationship. I'm just describing what I believe was the chronology.
Understood. And upon that breakup, as you said, Mr. Waite never said anything to the effect of why they broke up.
Not to me, he didn't.
I believe you said you did not remember seeing Miss Maxwell there. Is that correct?
I do not recall seeing her there.
And you had no interaction with her at all?
Not that I recall. Not that I recall. Not that I recall. Not that I know of, but I can't say that.
So again, we have to consider who these people are. It's never just yes or no. It's not that I had any knowledge of, and I don't recall. That's not a no. That's I don't recall until you can prove it. And then once you can prove it, I might recall it. That's what guilty fucking people do.
I don't know. I don't know.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't recall knowing that. I am not. I don't know how common it is, but it has been in the past. I am not aware of any other.
Because these depositions are under oath is the reason they are so careful about their answers. And if you look at the history of depositions like this, a lot of times, and my dog likes it, a lot of times what they don't say can say more than what they do say. So the I don't recalls are really, really red flags in this instance, because if you really wanted to help this investigation and stop this from ever happening again, you wouldn't need a team of lawyers up there to make sure you know what the word "the" means before answering. Clearly, the Clintons have something to hide about this. Allegedly, right? But it would not shock me one bit knowing their involvement was much deeper and Bill was much more involved than they're letting on. But until you show Bill the photo or video, I don't recall. That's how these people work. Lie until you can prove them otherwise. Prove them wrong, and then maybe they'll admit to it. Oh my God, this is so maddening, y'all. Off the record.
We'll go back on the record.
May I ask a question? Okay, so court filings, in this particular court filing, it lists you among 13 specific witnesses for whom Virginia Giuffre was seeking all communications. There are no allegations against you, but why do you believe you were included on this list with people like Prince Andrew, Alan Dershowitz, Amy Taylor, the Dubins, Jean-Luc Brunel, Bill Clinton, and yourself?
Objection. This calls for speculation. It's a partial document. The witness may answer if she can, but it's a list of names in a search term description.
I have no idea.
Did you know at any point that your communications were sought after in this lawsuit?
I know nothing about this.
So you were never made aware that your name was mentioned in this lawsuit?
This is the first time I'm seeing this.
No one's ever spoken to you about your name in a lawsuit?
Not that I recall.
The Clintons are way more involved than they are willing to share. Period. End of discussion. I can't understand any argument against that. They are clearly withholding and doing everything they can to obfuscate from the truth any time their names are mentioned anywhere. This is, I guess after doing it your whole life, it's going to be hard to break that habit. In this deposition, Hillary was asked about pizza, and she wasn't asked about jerky. And I think when we do this episode, it's going to be pretty shocking. So hang on to your hats. We're going to have this one coming out soon. And boy, it just can't get more disgusting for these people. With that said, thanks for hanging out. This was a super long live stream. And thanks for the comments, the likes, the subscribes, all that good stuff. So keep it coming, and we'll keep them coming for you all. Have a fantastic rest of your evening, and we will see you, I believe, tomorrow night with this jerky episode. So Hillary and Clinton went forward and were deposed on video that we got to see like 24, 48 hours later, by the way. The most impactful in regards to what we've been covering, Flack and I, on these Epstein files. And I think these are kind of the most useful segments of the videos. There's still a lot to go through. We're going to start with the president. You know, normally I'm start with ladies first, but fuck both these people. So we're going to start with the president. And like I said, we're going to kind of jump to parts because a lot of it is shuffling papers around and what does the word "the" mean and that kind of stuff. So we're going to get to kind of the important parts and then talk about them for a second.
Since Hillary came in yesterday, She had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Nothing. There's a picture of us both shaking hands with him in a photo line in 1993.
Okay, so like we're gonna watch the Hillary deposition, and I'm pretty sure like she says on the record, I never met Jeffrey Epstein or something to that effect. And then like here's Bill several days or a couple days later, maybe it's the next day, I think it's the next day, saying, oh, he brings up she shook his hand one time in the 90s. And you know what that is? Like she said that and then she realized, oh shit, I said that under oath. They're going to find that picture. They're going to find that picture. That one of me and Jeff shaking hands. Of them actually meeting. Because that's how it is now. You have to get an accurate picture of someone doing the actual crime in action in order to believe it.
Neither she nor I remembered shaking his hand all those years ago. So I don't think that was right. I did take those plane trips with him, and you have a right to ask those questions. So I'm glad to be here, and I understand what the oath is. I have to be honest with you. You know, I'll be 80.
Well, let's see. On the record, I believe there are almost 30 flights that you took to Epstein Island, Mr. President.
We, each of us, owe the victims nothing less than the truth and accuracy. We owe that to the American people. And I actually hope that you will be able to come up with some suggestions.
And now that my dick doesn't work.
Yesterday about what the State Department does and what she pushed on human trafficking and girls. We were working there trying to stop deaths from diarrhea for young children. And it was interesting. These guys were cold and calculated. They said, oh, you don't have to leave because the kids you're helping are younger than the ones we want. They have to be about 9 before they're worth anything to us. So this is really important. And I will do what I can to make whatever contribution I can. Thank you.
Wait, what the fuck? Did he just say something about 9-year-olds in Nigeria and then like back off of it? He's like, but yeah, you guys should look into that.
When did you first meet Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, I will try in this testimony, and I will point it out when I'm aware there's a picture or something that predates this. There's a picture which shows him shaking hands in the White House Historical Association reception. That was in 1993, but I'm not aware of that. I first remember meeting him when I got on his airplane to take the first trip with my foundation in, I think, 2002. I'm not sure which one it was. Which one was the first? I took all or parts of 4 or 5 trips to Asia and Africa.
So
and
many.
Northern Europe on Mr. Epstein's airplane. Sometime after I left the White House, either in late 2001 or early-ish in 2002, I received a call from Larry Summers, who had been on my economic team and was later Secretary of Treasury and was then President of Harvard. And he said that he was calling because a man named Jeffrey Epstein, who had made a substantial commitment of several $1 million, I think it was 10, but whatever it was.
Okay, so yeah, me and Flack and I were harping on this a couple episodes ago, which is the insane amount of connections between Epstein and these scientists, these professors at these universities, because Epstein had deep pockets. And when you're a professor or researcher at a university, you need grants. And if you have a rich guy that believes in the cutting edge research of what you're trying to do with motivation, you oftentimes, some folks are going to compromise themselves. They heard the rumors. They knew who they were dealing with, some of them. And they chose to proceed because they need the money. They want the money. Bill Clinton knew who this guy was. It's a lot of free airfare. Lot of free airfare.
And I thought Mr. Epstein was an interesting man, but I didn't think he was really interested in what I was doing.
Oh, no shit. He was interested in knowing what you were doing. He wasn't interested in it. He was interested in knowing about it.
As he asked all these questions, he did ask about economics and politics, as he said he would. And he never asked me anything untoward. It's just that I thought I had done what I promised to do, and he had done what he promised to do. And I thought I've always, over the years, with these donors, tried not to overstay my welcome. I thought that we'd done enough, and then it's time to start working with other people.
When did you first learn of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes?
I think in 2008, when he was prosecuted. There's nothing that I saw when I was around him that made me realize he was trafficking women.
When did you first meet Ghislaine Maxwell?
I believe I first met her with him when she was working with him.
And what did you understand Miss Maxwell, and what did you understand her relationship to be with Mr. Epstein?
I thought she was sort of his chief of staff or
pimp,
administrator.
Chief pimp.
You said that you first met Miss Maxwell with Mr. Epstein. Is that after you were president?
Yeah, I don't believe I met her when I was president. I could have. I met a lot of people, I don't remember, but I definitely remember meeting her on that first flight. Yes, it lasted longer and was more extensive than my relationship with Mr. Epstein because
yeah, so Clinton's saying that he had a close relationship with Giselle Maxwell, or Jiz. I like to call her Jiz Maxwell for short. Had a great relationship, Jiz Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's pimp of underage girls in high school.
Ghislaine Maxwell started going with a man named Ted Waite, who had made a lot of money making the first sort of self-designed computers before he started seeing Ghislaine. We'd been friends, and he was interested particularly in reducing pollution in the oceans. And so when she started going with him, I would see her from time to time.
And when did your relationship with Miss Maxwell end?
I don't think I've seen her in a decade. I don't know. It's been a long time. I don't know exactly when.
Why did your relationship with Miss Maxwell end?
She couldn't supply anymore. Every time he called her,
In
it was
Boston, I think she
was like an excuse.
With a man there, and I think they may have married.
FBI's watching me.
so she wasn't so much around, and then when it became, after 2019, when it became obvious that she was involved too, to an extent that I did not know, that was the end of it. No, but when she was with Ted White, she was when we were kicking off CGI. She was very interested in that.
Clinton Global
And she
Initiative.
participated.
CGI.
But I don't remember, I don't know, it's been 10, 12 years since I saw her. I don't remember when the last time was. And he says if you will take an hour on the longer legs of these trips he knows you're going to make to Africa and Asia to talk to him about it, that he will fly you on his airplane and your staff and your Secret Service detail and any other people you want to take who are supporting your work.
How did you typically communicate with Mr. Epstein? Did you talk to him on the phone?
Excuse me, he just said he talked to him on the trips, so that's in person.
Typically, my staff communicated with with him. I think it was mostly Mr. Band, but somebody talked to him.
But outside of the work on the foundation and your trips, how many times did you meet in person with Mr. Epstein?
You're asking him to the best of his recollection.
Outside of the trips, I believe he came to the office once in Harlem. I was still housed up there then. And I think he paid a brief visit to the office. And I paid a brief visit to his house. When I once thought he was there, but now that I think about it, I don't think he was. And that was it. I mean, I didn't. That's what I remember. I can't imagine. I don't remember the conversations.
And for the record, before we move on, did you ever have any communications with Mr. Epstein that related to young women or girls?
No.
Should show the EFTA number. It's 00021628.
Yep.
There's a name on there. Would you be able to read that name to me?
Can you read the name?
Excuse me, Congressman,
Yes.
will you ask me if you've ever seen the document before?
Yes, well, this is evidence, and so I wanted to ask him specifically. So it's from the DOJ document release, right?
I understand, but he may not have seen it, or he may have seen it.
No, I've never seen it, but it looks like a passport.
Okay. Can you tell me the name that's listed on the passport?
Excuse me, he's never seen this document. Would you just read the name, please?
Yes, the name is Marius Robert.
Marius Robert, yeah.
Are you familiar with that name at all?
No.
Okay. Would you be able to identify the individual in the photo?
It looks like Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay, the reason I ask you about this specifically is because I do believe that Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence operative. And so this was a passport that was actually entered in and released by the Department of Justice, but this was an FBI filing. It was found in his safe, if you will. I'm wondering if you were essentially targeted by a honeypot operation and or by intelligence to gather information. So that's why I asked you that question.
Well, if there was a honey,
Mr. President, there's not a question pending.
is there a question?
No. You can ask a question.
Well, I'll be getting to more, but that's the reason I asked that. Okay, my next question for you is, have you ever had contact with an individual by the name of Shantae Davies?
I believe Shantae that's a distinctive name, and so I think that was the name of one of his flight attendants.
Okay. She's been described on being on a 2002 Africa trip and providing massages. Was she or any other young female on that trip underage at that time?
Not that I'm aware of. You've seen the pictures. There was one time when I was sitting up and I got a back rub, a neck rub.
Okay.
And I think Shantae did it, but I'm not sure.
They only have the only time it ever happened was just that one time when there was that picture.
Sure.
Okay. Did you ever visit Epstein's Little St. James Island?
No.
We have Virginia Guffrey, who has testified seeing you on the island with two young girls. Did this occur at all? Okay. Why do you think she would have made that claim?
Objection, speculation. You can't possibly.
Have you ever met her or any other Epstein associated underage girl?
Not to my knowledge.
Do you believe that it would be appropriate of members of this committee to bring in witnesses, whether it is about you or another president, that have unfounded allegations regarding sexual claims of misconduct?
That's not a decision for me to make.
As a recommendation in regards to avoiding trafficking, et cetera, and bringing justice for the victims, would you make that recommendation to this committee?
Just so I understand the question, you're saying if the witness has unfounded claims?
Well, I don't believe that Sarah Ransom's claims about the president are founded. I don't believe that there's sex tapes with you, President Clinton.
No, I'm just asking about your question. Is it, you're not asking if somebody with plausible claims should be brought in. You're asking if somebody with implausible, unfounded claims.
Correct, because these claims were found to be unfounded by investigators.
So are you asking his opinion?
Yes, because we are trying to figure out in regards to being able to further this investigation and whether or not we are going to be interviewing other individuals regarding sex trafficking, avoiding in the future. I know that you and your wife have.
Yeah, I'm feeling. See the look on his attorney's face right there? I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that right now. What are you talking about? Does he what? Does he think someone that's not credible should come forward and testify about something that didn't happen? Probably not.
Both been big on this issue. So I'm asking you, would you think that it would be appropriate that this committee bring in someone like Sarah Ransom, who has unfounded claims that have been debunked in this investigation? It's
He
a
answered
simple
the question about, he answered this question when you first asked it then, when he said that it wasn't for him to make those decisions.
Well, I'm asking for his recommendation to the committee and follow-up. It's not a gotcha question. This is obviously a very serious investigation.
Well, first of all, I recommend that you have on your staff a prosecutor who's had a lot of experience in this, dealing with these cases. Normally, it's not a good idea to bring in a witness that you know is lying.
Okay, thank you for that. My last questions for you are you familiar with anyone by the name of Adriana Ross?
What in the actual fuck? If anyone, like, am I missing like a chat link or a memo or something? I really do not understand that whole thing. That was like 5 minutes. She asked him if someone that they know is lying should be brought in to testify. And he's like, well, probably not. It took all that time and all that attorney power to get through that question. Ay, folks. We are fucking, no wonder we're in trouble.
I don't think so.
How about Sarah Kellen?
I don't think so.
Okay. Would you recommend that this committee bring in individuals that were listed as trafficking minors? They were listed as co-conspirators and then given plea deals.
I don't know enough about it, but I think you should do whatever you think will strengthen the ability of the United States not to have this happen again.
Do you know if you were targeted at any point?
I don't, but
okay.
I don't.
Definitely, a lot of us have I say I like it's my theory. A lot of us have suspected Epstein as some sort of asset, maybe a double asset, triple asset, who knows, but one that leverages information, knowledge, and damning information, like blackmail type information, to get what he wants, where he needs to go, and all those things. So here's Bill Clinton. I would imagine he might have been speculating on that a bit. I wonder, if maybe they had some briefings while he was in the White House. I would have pressed harder there, because it looked like he had more he wanted to say about Epstein being a spy, but we didn't really get there.
I said we were friendly and we had a cordial relations, but I didn't know him well enough because we had almost no contact beyond what I described.
Book of letters, which
Yeah,
was
it's his
compiled
50th birthday.
Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday.
Questions?
Yeah,
Mr. President, do you recognize this
I
letter?
do.
And for the record, does this appear to be your handwriting and
It
signature?
is.
And why did you write this letter?
Why did I? Because I was requested to contribute a nice letter for his birthday book.
And who asked you to write the letter?
I don't remember.
It's like, even if it's the most innocent thing, you hear that word child, it just leaves a fucking bad taste in your mouth with all this shit we're finding out, right?
But for the record, you weren't referring to errors in judgment that Mr. Epstein had related to his inappropriate activities involving you?
Absolutely not. I knew nothing about that. I do it. And I told you, I thought Epstein was interesting and curious. So I wrote a letter that I thought reflected that. And my conscience is clear. That helps.
Oh, here come the minority questions. Get ready for Trump bashing for
And I'll
about
be
20
doing
minutes.
most of the questioning for the minority today. President Trump does not like talking about his longstanding personal relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
Like, I knew I didn't even have to hear the questions. I knew, did I not call it? It's going to be Trump bashing for 20 minutes. Look, it's not that Trump wasn't involved and should not be questioned in all of this. I get that. But he is not sitting there right now. Right now, Democrats, you have Bill Clinton sitting there. And there's a lot of nutso bonkers shit that went down in the 90s we're just learning about now. They're not going to do this again. Like, you don't need to waste time on your bullshit narratives. Ask them the questions that need to be asked. Like, when people are stupid.
One email from 2011, Epstein said to Ghislaine Maxwell that President Trump was, quote, that dog that hasn't barked. Epstein wrote that, quote, of course he, referring to President Trump, knew about the girls. House Oversight Committee releases Jeffrey Epstein email correspondence raising questions about White House cover-up of Epstein files. President Trump asked the Department of Justice to investigate Epstein's relationships with yourself, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, and J.P. Morgan Chase. President Trump did not include any Republicans in his demands. Later that day, Attorney General Pam Bondi posted on social media that the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York would comply with President Trump's directive and take the lead on the investigation, which also includes President Trump's post on Truth Social. It appears as if you and other Democratic figures have been targeted by President Donald Trump. It would not be the first time that President Trump has targeted his political enemies by Donald Trump. Mr. Epstein visited the White House a number of times while you were in office. Our understanding is that Mr. Epstein visited the White House 17 times between 1993 and 1995. It's been publicly reported that in March of 1995, there was a fundraiser in Palm Beach that you attended and that Mr. Epstein also attended. Other guests reportedly included Jimmy Buffett and investor Ron Perlman, who may have hosted the event at his home. Do you have any specific recollection of that event?
I remember going there in 1995. I have now seen the picture with Jeffrey Epstein and Jimmy Buffett.
So it sounds like they're trying to establish some kind of alibi for probably other things that he's been suspected of being a part of around that time.
So you can see here that on April 27th, 1995, Lynn Forrester, now Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, sounds like served on a few committees or boards under your administration, wrote you a note. I'll just read part of that note out loud. Dear Mr. President, it was a pleasure to see you recently at Senator Kennedy's house. There was too much to discuss and too little time. Using my 15 seconds of access to discuss Jeffrey Epstein and currency stabilization, I neglected to talk to you about a topic near and dear to my heart, namely affirmative action and the future. And that's the end of the relevant portion. I just wanted to ask whether you have any specific recollection of this note or of your conversation with Ms. Forrester.
I don't.
Do you recall any other interactions that occurred between yourself and Mr. Epstein during your time in office that have not already been mentioned today?
No.
So the Clinton timeline is definitely important. The Clinton-Epstein timeline is definitely important. In 92, Clinton gets that donation. Not a big donation, $1,000. I'm sure it wasn't even significant enough for the president to remember his name, I'm sure. But he goes on the record as a donor at a certain level. The White House visitor logs show at least 17 recorded visits by Epstein between 93 and 95. So in a 2 year span, 17 recorded visits. Those are recorded visits. Trust me, they have ways of getting you in and out to the president without letting everyone know. And we know at that same time, Epstein is cultivating all these, relationships and friendships with all these other powerful people. In 2002, Epstein begins appearing publicly around major political figures. So he, for example, attended events with former President Clinton and other world leaders after Clinton left office. So he's making appearances with this guy. But he barely knows him. 2002 to 2003, the Epstein jet flights, right? We've all heard about these. They talked about them a little bit earlier. These were the flight logs from Epstein's aircraft, the Lolita Express, which is fucked up as well. Shows Clinton flew multiple times on Epstein's plane. They went to Africa, Europe, Asia. Some flights were reportedly connected to the Clinton Foundation humanitarian trips. So the Clinton Global Initiative, the CGI, like the president mentioned. Clinton says Secret Service accompanied him on these trips. And that's, again, he mentioned that as well here, that Epstein told him, hey, I'll cover the whole kit and caboodle as far as the flights go for this foundation. He really wanted to be an integral part of this foundation. In 2002, Clinton took an Africa trip with Epstein and others like Kevin Spacey and comedian Chris Tucker. And we've seen those photos floating around with those guys looking like they're having a fantastic time. The trip involved visits. It was connected to HIV and AIDS and humanitarian initiatives. So that's what we heard Clinton talk about, how he did this wonderful thing, for the first bit of this deposition. But he's got Kevin Spacey, he's got Chris Tucker traveling with Jeffrey Epstein. Sounds more like a boys' week. He used to like boys' weeks from what I understand, from what's out there. In the early 2000s, again, Epstein at Clinton Foundation events. So he attended gatherings involving Clinton Foundation donors and global elites. Though Epstein wasn't a formal board member, he was frequently caught at these events. 2005 to 2008 is when the Epstein investigation begins and really starts heating up. So he becomes the target of a Florida criminal investigation. During that time, reportedly, Clinton sort of ceased interaction with Epstein, right? So he gets in trouble, they get word what the charges are and may be, and they go, oh shit, we need to distance. And that's kind of when it started. 2015, Epstein mentioned in the civil lawsuit in the Gouffre versus Maxwell, a victim alleged she was once told she should have sex with Clinton. Clinton denied the allegation, of course, and no evidence placed Clinton on Epstein Island. And that's, again, why he is confidently saying at this deposition today, I'm sorry, this was a few days ago, but we just got the release within the last 24 hours, that he was never there, never at Epstein Island. 2019 was the Epstein arrests. 24 to 2025 Epstein documents are unsealed. 26 are these congressional hearings that we're watching today. So Epstein visited the White House during the Clinton presidency. We know by what's documented that happened at least 17 times. We know Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet multiple times, including not only himself, but his entire entourage. And this went on as late as the early 2000s. Clinton described Epstein as a friend in 2002. And then Clinton later says he cut ties after learning what Epstein did. Now, all that going on, all of those interactions, and his wife wants us to believe she never met him. A picture they were referring to a few seconds ago was one of these pictures here. Oh, hey, I guess there's no getting around the fact that you do know this guy. So you might as well cough it up. Just like the only time he'll admit getting the one massage is the one picture we have. It's the same old Bill Clinton. He is not being honest. Shocker. Everyone knows. If you catch someone one time stealing something, that means they've stolen a lot of other things before you caught him or the police caught him or whatever. Right? We know how these numbers work. So what are the odds that the only time Clinton gets a massage is the one time he's pictured getting a massage? Okay. Well, what about the naked swimming in the pool with Maxwell and the unidentified young lady? That was the first time too.
1999, toward the end of your time in office, we know that Epstein contributed $20,000 to the First Lady's joint fundraising account. Would you have any memory or knowledge of that particular contribution?
No, was that for a White House related thing?
No, joint fundraising, he means the Senate.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
In December of 2001, the New York Post reported that you and Miss Maxwell had dinner at a New York City restaurant called Nello's. Do you have any specific recollection of that dinner?
No.
Moving into 2002, you touched on this in the previous round. It sounds like there were two meetings. We don't have exact dates for them, but one of them was at your office in Harlem with Mr. Epstein. The other was at Mr. Epstein's home in New York City. Could you just repeat for us, what do you recall about each meeting, maybe starting with your office in Harlem?
I just remember that sometime in 2002, I think, he paid a visit, and he had become, I think it was either after or just before we started the flights. But he obviously was going to be a serious supporter of the foundation, and I think he paid a visit. I was flattered he wanted to see my office. I liked it. And my staff aide said, we're only a couple blocks from Epstein's house. It's a converted elementary school. He's very proud of it. And I think, it'd be a nice thing to do. Since it's early, you could just go by and take a look at it. So that's what we did.
His house was a converted elementary school? And Clinton was like, I gotta check this out.
No, the only people I saw there that night were staff. And him if he was there. I just don't remember.
Yeah, it's on the 13th, and these flights are from Morocco to Portugal, and then Portugal to JFK. And our understanding, just from public reporting, is that this may have been part of a trip to Morocco to attend the King of Morocco's wedding.
It was a long time ago. I don't know if this was it. But I did go to Morocco more than once.
Do you recall attending the King of Morocco's wedding?
Absolutely, I did.
Do you recall whether Mr. Epstein and Miss Maxwell also attended that wedding?
I don't. I remember, I think Chelsea went with me.
there's been some reporting that you may have invited Mr. Epstein and Miss Maxwell to the King's wedding. It sounds like, but please you tell me, do you have any specific recollection of that?
I don't remember.
Do you have any specific recollection of these two flights, which may or may not have been part of the King's wedding? They're from Morocco to Portugal and Portugal to JFK. Mr. Epstein and Miss Maxwell were on the flights as well as yourself.
When I was coming home.
He's just asking you about these two legs, and he's asking you, do you have any recollection of these two legs of the flight?
No, I remember the wedding very well and all the stuff that happened, but that's all. I don't remember the coming or the going.
Burleson, turns out, was the one who asked Hillary the UFO questions yesterday. I think it was Boebert asked her the question about Pizzagate, and Burleson asked about UFOs. And I don't knock these folks for trying to get answers to questions they wanted answers to forever, because it's not exactly easy to get one of these two in front of you, especially if you've been dumping on them in the news for the last 10 years. It's just this thing, like you're just trying to create internet buzz or something by asking these questions in formats that don't matter. But really what we should be asking Hillary and Bill Clinton about during the Epstein investigation is Jeffrey Epstein and how you knew him and how you may have helped him and even participated in some activities with him. Lord knows we've seen the photos. This whole thing it's a charade. A charade, I say.
I will repeat the question again. Did Miss Maxwell ever visit your home in Chappaqua?
I don't recall, but it's quite possible she did. Hillary was a senator. In the beginning, she had a lot of events there. And we knew her.
During the same exchange, Miss Maxwell implies that she may have been just driving past Chappaqua and stopped in if you were home. Did this ever occur?
If you know.
Not that I remember, but I may not have been home.
So this is pretty short. This is an email from Doug Band to...
Yep, I'm familiar with it.
To GMAX, which is commonly known as Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yep.
It says, for the record, the email states, "You back? Another way to get in touch with me quicker is on my BlackBerry, actually the president's, but we share it." The email that's listed there, WJC, is that your email address? Or was that your email address?
Practically, no. That is, I never sent one email on it.
Is this your email, Mr. President?
No, I didn't send emails on it.
Did you share a
But
BlackBerry with
is
Mr. Band?
it your account?
At least that's what we did, but I think I finally got another BlackBerry.
But this was back before, okay, sorry, Mr. President, this is back in, think of the year, look at the year, so you make sure you're answering the question.
2001.
Did you?
So you did not email. How often do you send emails? Or did you send emails?
Have you ever sent an email, Mr. President?
I sent one email to John Glenn, Senator John Glenn, when he was in space at age 77. And I sent an email to the men and women on board a U.S. ship in the Adriatic during...
Oh my God. So he did. So he's like, maybe if I make it boring, they'll forget. They won't pay attention.
Kosovo War.
Yep, it was one time in the 90s.
Since then, I'm not
Kosovo.
sure I've sent one.
Okay. I'd like to...
And I told him no more back in Kosovo.
Introduce Majority Exhibit number 19.
Makes me a certified.
Which ends in 2335030.
Yeah.
Well, I got to, I guess, give credit to Burleson for the patience, because we know where I think politically he comes down on things. So treating the president, ex-president with respect. Probably an amount of respect is as much as being a Gen Xer and being raised in a blue city. So as much as like that was a foundational thing for me, 90s, and we loved Clinton. Right? I know as terrible as that fucking sounds. That's where I was raised. I would not be showing this man the amount of respect that Burleson is. So God bless him. Because I'm quite furious with all these bastards.
It says, sorry to hear about the Bellsburg stuff is bad news, even worse, that it may be damaging. You know that one of my pet fears is that in London I am press toxic, so I hope that I never add to your woes in that department. If I hear anything, I will of course let you know. I could not help myself. There was one juicy little bit tidbit I did let out, the one about what a super stud that you are and how I have a crush on you and how you are hung like a horse. And well, you get the picture. Hope you don't mind. Are you familiar with this email?
Are you saying at the time it was sent or in the preparation for this?
I don't like to brag.
At the time that it was sent, were you familiar with it?
Oh, no.
Are you familiar with it before?
Yes, it's
Okay.
now famous. I did not know, nor did I need to know, that they had a personal relationship for a while.
A physical relationship?
It's just at any time I hear spanking, I got to get in there.
Are you asking him whether or not they had a physical relationship?
You believe they had a physical relationship?
I don't know for sure.
And just to be clear, you said it, but you did not have a physical relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell.
The president's answered that question multiple times.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Mark Middleton?
Yes.
Can you describe who Mark Middleton was?
He was a young man from Arkansas who was really ambitious, wanted to go to work in Washington, wanted to have,
Okay, so I'm just going to pause this for just a second. If y'all like the stuff that I do and you haven't seen the episode Flack and I did on Mina, I think it's like a 3 hour long, I think it's over 3 hours. But we got in depth on these folks. And if you can get through the other people's content in the first few minutes, because basically I had to snip it in so many kind of news shows to kind of catch people up on what was going on at that time, to kind of was trying to get people in that state of mind, early 90s, late 80s, early 90s Arkansas and what was going on there, because it was a totally different world. And the fact that they were running we always hear about the CIA running drugs for weapons to arm the Sandinistas in Nicaragua, but we don't really hear a lot about that operation itself. I mean, we know some of the key players like the Freeway Rick Ross and the Barry, I'm not going to remember his name because I'm trying to think of it, but we know the key players. They made the movie with Tom Cruise and all that stuff. But what nobody's really hit on, I mean, some people have, but what hasn't really gained any traction for whatever reason is the amount of drugs that the Clintons were funneling through. Not the Clintons. The Clintons were in power when these drugs were getting funneled through Mena, Arkansas. It really wasn't that. There was a lot of questions about the legality of a lot of things the Clintons did, not just with Jeffrey Epstein, but with other things too.
And he knew Mac McClarty, my chief of staff, who was from Little Rock, and Bruce Lindsay, who was also from Little Rock. And he worked with us, and then later I think he became, I don't know, but maybe he became a lobbyist later, but there was a period of time when he was in a position to wave people in.
He has been identified by multiple news sources to be the individual that most of the time was entering or signing in Jeffrey Epstein into the White House.
Yes.
So by the way, he's asking, who did Mark Middleton work for in the White House?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Are you aware that Mr. Middleton committed suicide
Yes, I
in
am.
2022? He was found dead at Hefner Ranch, extension cord around his neck with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the chest. So he was shot and hung. Do you have any information that leads you to suspect that he did something other than commit suicide?
No.
Okay.
Do you have any concerns that this was in relation to his knowledge or relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, given the date?
But the president has
Of the
already
suicide?
testified to the fact that he was unaware that Mr. Epstein was visiting the White House. So are you asking him then as to what he would have known?
Just curious, have you read the Epstein files that have been released?
No. I've read many news stories about them, but I haven't read them all.
Why would he? He's like Shia out on the streets trying to get some ass, yo. Don't want to give a fuck about the Epstein files.
How many Epstein files do you recall were released during the Biden administration?
I don't know. How many?
If you know.
I don't know.
0. In a June 2024 interview on Piers Morgan, Kevin Spacey recounted noticing young girls on the flight and expressed he didn't want to be around this guy, Epstein, because it felt he put the president at risk on that trip to South Africa because there were these young girls. So did Mr. Spacey ever communicate these concerns to you directly?
Not that I recall, no.
So my wife and I have this theory. It's not 100%. But when somebody says, I don't recall, for whatever reason, the recall word seems to be a tell of liars. You'll notice they ask, did you know about underage girls giving massages? No. Did you know? Did Kevin Spacey ever ask you if you were concerned about the young girls on the flight? Not that I recall. Nope, I don't recall. I bet he did. I bet he did.
You ever feel uncomfortable due to the presence of young girls on any of these flights?
When you say young girls, do you mean women who are younger than 18? And so you're saying there were women younger than 18?
I'm asking.
Yeah, if you can ask that question.
Were there anybody on the flights that you can recall under age 18?
To the best of my knowledge, there was not.
Ron Burkle, do you know him?
I do.
Why do you think Mr. Burkle would think Epstein is creepy?
Are you asking
Objection,
for him?
speculative. He can't know what.
I don't know.
This is what's so frustrating when, I mean, you can ask, but now this answer that he gives is, it will never be admissible. You see? It's like this legal game they're very good at playing at.
Some people thought I shouldn't fly with him.
Did you witness anything unusual with Epstein that would lead you to believe that Epstein was creepy?
No, I never saw him.
I mean, that is kind of funny. Talk about pot calling the kettle black. Ron Burkle saying that Jeff Epstein is creepy when some rumors out there about that guy too. We'll just put it that way. It doesn't take the president. It doesn't take a CEO of some company. It takes anybody with a rational brain to realize money can buy you damn near anything in this country, including a get out of jail free pass or a we'll just ignore you pass. Money is what greases these wheels. Let's not pretend like it's something else.
I understand that she also attended your daughter's wedding.
She did.
And so understanding now the unspeakable evil that these people committed, do you believe it was a mistake allowing them close to your family?
Are you asking if he knew at the time when she was at the wedding?
Looking back.
Looking back, I had no idea. If I had known what she was doing, I would have done the right thing.
28 flights, y'all weren't friends? The fuck out of here with that.
Ghislaine Maxwell on every flight you were on, as far as you remember?
The same answer. I think she was, but there'll be a record of it.
As far as on your normal trips, could you rattle off, say, the 4 or 5 people connected to your foundation who you remember were most frequently on these trips or were most important on the trips? Could you give us the names?
Well, Doug Mann, Justin Cooper, Aaron Magaziner, and I can't remember who else. I'd be glad to look.
We'll give you a couple seconds to think. I can't remember who worked for me 10 years ago, so I don't expect you. But anybody else you can think
It
of?
was 24 years ago. I'll be glad to try to find out. My foundation did a lot of work in the Virgin Islands.
And you also vacationed there as president?
Well, yeah, and when I was president, Hillary and I vacationed there, and we liked it very much.
Okay.
But when they had the hurricane in 2017, we went to the islands and tried to help.
Is there were lawyers, sometimes high-priced lawyers, who were able to bring, I guess particularly from Eastern Europe, Eastern European girls through here, negotiate the immigration laws and such. And particularly some very high-priced famous lawyers were hired, and apparently, I don't know, they couldn't find anything better to do when they left Washington, were engaged in helping.
That's an interesting body language, isn't it? I mean, maybe it means nothing. A lot of people would tell you body language is very important, especially in instances like this, especially with presidents. It's very interesting.
I guess girls that some people alleged became prostitutes get here from Eastern Europe. Could you comment on lawyers who make money bringing girls from Eastern Europe or other places around the world into prostitution, coming to this country?
Sorry, I'm just to clarify. You just want him to comment on that?
Yeah, I want you to comment. What do you think of these people?
You're asking his
I don't
opinion.
like it.
What?
I don't like it, but I don't know much about it.
For the record, we think lawyers are fantastic.
Thank you, Mr. President.
The minority group referenced this email. Larry Summers from Jeffrey Epstein. Recall I've told you I've met some very bad people, none as bad as Trump, not one decent cell in his body. So yes, dangerous. And then, when this got discovered, the world went nuts and everybody had a theory about what that meant. And yeah. So one good thing after these depositions is that Comer wants more. So they have sent out letters to these folks here, probably a couple of the more notable ones being Bill Gates, Leon Black, Ted Waite. This isn't just, hey, please show up. I mean, they're sending actual summonses to these folks. We need you to come and testify. Now, my concern is that, let's say this oversight committee, for whatever reason, has some kind of breakthrough. Well, then what? What kind of legal authority do you have? How can you hold people accountable? I mean, this is nuts. You realize, there have been powerful people in other countries that have been arrested just for being in these emails and not looking good. And we have way more than that going on in the fucking White House. They're running our country. These folks are running our country. And Lutnick says he will appear voluntarily for a transcribed interview, which means no video, no audio, probably closed door.
As a former United States senator, I have respect for legislative oversight.
Oh, if she would have been able to say, as a former federal prosecutor right there, she would have had everybody butt in.
And I expect its exercise, as do the American people, to be principled and fearless in pursuit of truth and accountability. As I stated in my sworn declaration on January 13th, I had no idea about their criminal activities. It's unfathomable that Mr. Epstein initially got a slap on the wrist in 2008, which allowed him to continue his predatory practices for another decade. You have held 0 public hearings, refused to allow the media to attend them, including today, despite espousing the need for transparency on dozens of occasions. Not a single Republican member showed up for Les Wexner's deposition.
Have you ever communicated with any of the following people relating to Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell? Richard Kahn,
No,
Darren N. Dyke,
no,
Harvey Weinstein,
no,
Ellie de Rothschild,
no,
Ariane de Rothschild,
no,
Lynn Forrester de Rothschild,
no,
any other members of the de Rothschild family?
no.
When would the last time have been that you either communicated with Ms. Maxwell, even if not directly yourself, but been around Ms. Maxwell?
The best of my recollection is at the wedding in 2010.
Would you consider Ms. Maxwell a friend of your daughter?
She probably was friendlier with her than I was because I didn't see her very often.
Have you ever met Jeffrey Epstein?
I do not recall ever meeting Jeffrey Epstein. In preparation for this hearing, I was told that he attended an event at the White House that was put on by the White House Historical Association. But I have no recollection of that.
And only that one time at the White House Historical Association?
That's the only time that I'm aware of that I might have possibly been in the same room with him.
Did you have an initial impression of Mr. Epstein?
I have no recollection of Mr. Epstein.
There's that word. Recall. Recollection. I'm not saying we're right, but I'm just saying my wife's right about a lot of shit. It's true, like whenever you watch like the murder documentaries and shit, and they're interrogating people or talking to people, they'll be like, yes, no, and then they'll be like, I don't recall. That's interesting that you don't recall.
I knew nothing about him. He was there as an invited guest by the White House Historical Association. That's my best recollection.
Like your husband is running around swimming naked with these women, with this guy, private flights, and anybody that's plugged in at the time, anybody that knew anything knew what was going on with Jeffrey Epstein. But she just didn't have a clue. I just don't know.
I was not involved with what was happening to create the foundation, to create the work that was done to get low-cost drugs for AIDS. I knew about the work. I didn't know about the details.
Understood. And to be clear, you never had any communication yourself with Mr. Epstein, whether that be face-to-face interaction, phone calls, emails, text messages?
You can answer it again.
I have no recollection in any way of ever having any conversation at the White House or in any other place or on any kind of device of any sort. I knew nothing about him.
Did you learn of
20 visits to the White House, 30 flights your husband took with him? You have no idea who this guy is. Fuck you, lady.
Mr. Epstein's
fucking liars.
2006 indictment and subsequent arrest leading to his incarceration in 2008?
I have no idea.
And who would those discussions have been with?
I don't have any specific recollection.
You were Secretary of State under President Obama, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And it was during his first term, 2009 to 2013?
That's correct.
And after you completed your time as Secretary of State, did you return in any role to the Clinton Foundation?
I did. I became active in it at that point.
And by being active in it, could you describe that for us, please?
tried to support the work that Bill and my daughter and the team had done, and look for ways to be helpful. It was something that I wanted to make sure I could support.
Please correct me if I'm wrong. You rejoined as a board member, is that right?
It may have been the first time I was a board member. I don't remember. Either the first or the second time. Yeah.
And speaking of, it sounds like you were heavily involved when you returned to the foundation, or I guess started with the foundation at this point. As a board member, what type of responsibilities does that entail?
Attending the board meetings, approving the agenda of work for the year, the budget that goes with it, that kind of responsibility. So Procter & Gamble called us and said, one of our scientists, one of our chemists in the UK has created this packet of chemicals that can literally make the dirtiest water clean enough to drink. But we don't know what to do with it because we're a consumer company that sells products to middle-class people. This is something.
Now, it does open a slight portal to hell, but we think it's an important breakthrough. People deserve this. The reason you keep hearing these folks ask about it, well, this is a smart group. I probably don't even have to say it, but yeah, there's lots of rumors, tie-ins between the Epstein parties and this Clinton global group and Terramar. We talked about Terramar. If y'all been watching me and Flack talked about Terramar a few episodes back on this Epstein stuff. I think Megyn Kelly mentioned a couple days ago, or maybe Candace Owens, I don't know. But it was cool to hear that. But that connection, they were either in that group or trying to get in that group, and then there's ties between Epstein and that group. We're still sifting through 3 million documents.
Something that would go to the very poor. What do we do with it if we come to CGI? Can you connect us with somebody who can help us? So we connected them with World Vision, and I think maybe one or two other organizations. And so they used the packets to literally go around the world cleaning water. And Bill went with them, Chelsea went with them, and they would go to rural Myanmar or rural Kenya, and they would take this bucket of dirty water and they'd dump the packet in, and then my daughter and my husband would drink it to show that it was clean.
Also, interesting fact, that's also how McDonald's makes their milkshakes.
National businesses, philanthropies, NGOs, academics, anybody who has a good idea that we can help them work on and try to fulfill. That's what we do.
And on page 263, Ms. Maxwell tells Mr. Blanche that she had a role in shaping CGI. You said you were not aware of Ms. Maxwell having any role in shaping CGI.
I was not involved in the creation of CGI. Again, I was in the United States Senate. I was not involved in the work that was done to set up CGI.
Did Mr. Epstein help craft the idea or formulation of CGI?
I don't have any idea. I don't know anything about that.
It is from Gerald B. Lefcourt. He was an attorney for Mr. Epstein. He sent this to the prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida. That would be Sloman, Minchell, Lori, and Villafania. And I will direct your attention to page 21. It says, quote, Mr. Epstein was part of the original group that conceived the Clinton Global Initiative, which is described as a project bringing together a community of global leaders to devise and implement innovative solutions to some of the world's most pressing challenges. Again, is it possible that Mr. Epstein played a role in crafting CGI?
I have no idea what he did or what he said he did, and I have no way to testify to the veracity of either.
Yeah, it is called the Clinton Global Initiative. If somebody Somebody was like, Gabe, we're going to start a not-for-profit called the Gabriel Speaks Initiative. Probably the first question out of my mouth would be, who? Who is for what? Seems like a natural order in which things might happen. Somebody wouldn't come to me and say, hey, I have the Gabriel Speaks Initiative completely already set up internationally. Free flights everywhere and anything. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. You don't even have to ask who set all this up for you. Lying to our face. This used to be something people were ashamed to do. Well, I guess maybe never politicians, but I don't know. Maybe they had more gravitas back in the day. Gravitas? Yeah. I mean, this isn't even like, she's not even trying here. She just switched it to no knowledge, to don't recall, to no direct knowledge. All within like 10 minutes. What's it going to be in another 10 minutes?
I was not involved.
Have you seen this document before?
No,
People charitably provide donations to the foundation.
it's a 501c3, yes.
And do you or anyone else at the foundation ever solicit donations for the foundation?
I'm sure that happens. People talk to us, we talk to people, they ask questions about the work that's being done, and I'm sure that happened in the years before I was involved.
Did you solicit funds from Jeffrey Epstein for the foundation?
I had no contact with Jeffrey Epstein. I did not solicit funds from Jeffrey Epstein.
Did you solicit any funds for the foundation from Ms. Maxwell?
I did not. Again, we're talking about the creation of the foundation. I was not involved in the creation of the foundation. I am sure that I talked to my husband about what he was doing to set up the foundation. It was more on the substance of the work. How many drugs was he getting made in India? What was the, idea that was going to motivate, CGI to be what he wanted it to be? It was not in the weeds. It was the concept. It was, the excitement that he had about trying to establish the foundation.
Did you discuss the creation of CGI with Mr. Band?
I may have, because he was around. He worked for my husband. He was a personal aide to my husband, but I don't have any recollections of any specific conversations.
Do you recall any discussions related to distancing the foundation or CGI from Mr. Epstein or Ms. Maxwell?
I don't recall any conversations. I know that sometime, maybe 2003 or so, Bill did not have any ongoing contact with Epstein. And in preparation for this hearing, it became clear to him that Epstein was not interested in the charitable work that was motivating Bill as he traveled around the world, getting people to commit to providing low-cost drugs for not just HIV/AIDS, but eventually tuberculosis, malaria, and other diseases.
Did Mr. Epstein end up donating to the foundation or CGI?
I have no personal knowledge of that.
No personal knowledge. So you notice
You're not aware of a 20...
We'll differentiate. Words matter, y'all. Okay? There's a difference between personal knowledge, direct knowledge, indirect knowledge.
I think if they are fully released as the Transparency Act requires, that would be fulfilling the responsibility of the Justice Department, but it appears that there have been many issues with the full release, so I'm not going to characterize it other than to say I think that's a well-known fact.
Are you aware that both Republicans and Democrats voted to subpoena you and your husband?
I am here.
Okay. Are you aware both Republicans and Democrats voted to hold you in contempt when you didn't show up?
I am here.
Is that
partisan when both parties vote to do something together? Is that partisan or nonpartisan?
I think it's standing up for the institution, but there are many other aspects of the committee's work that strikes me as avoiding the main issues about who should be sitting here, who has actual information that might be useful to your investigation.
As a survivor, I'm a survivor. I appreciated your opening statement and your prioritizing some of these issues. Have you always believed this way? Have you believed this way for some time?
Have I what?
Have you believed what you believed in your opening statement for some time?
Yes, I have.
How long have you had those beliefs or held those beliefs in your opening statement?
Very long.
In
It was
1998?
June
Yes.
2004,
2005?
I decided.
Yes.
2008?
Yes.
2012?
Sure.
2016?
Mm-hmm.
2020?
Mm-hmm.
2024 to present day, you've held these beliefs the whole time?
Yes, I have.
Have you always believed that women abused by powerful men should be believed?
I know where you're going with this, and I have nothing to say about anything in the past. I'm here to answer questions about this investigation.
So do you believe that
But
women who are abused and
isn't the entire didn't Jeffrey Epstein's whole life take place in the past? What are you talking about, lady? I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm just here to talk about a guy that's dead and what he might do today.
by Epstein and an Epstein circle of associates should be believed?
I think that many of them have made very credible accusations.
Have you always thought that, do you think that women abused by powerful men should get justice?
I think that they should have their time to be evaluated, and where there is adequate evidence, they should certainly get justice, and perpetrators should be held to
The
account.
question was, have you always thought that women abused by powerful men should get justice?
Yes, absolutely.
I agree. Are you aware that, you were aware, I think you said this earlier, that Jeffrey Epstein was convicted in 2008 for procuring a child for prostitution and soliciting a prostitute, correct?
That's what the charges were, yes.
The picture is very clear, and it becomes more clear every day as the veil is lifted that they use this right-left thing to divide us and to justify fucking stupidity. Well, maybe this happened, but they did that. Let's not talk about me. Let's talk about what they did. Everything we did was good. Everything they did was just trying to ruin the earth. You can see right there. Regarding Shadow Commission invitation from Ed Epstein, which I don't know if it's the journalist Ed Epstein or another Ed Epstein. I would assume it's the journalist because they've emailed back and forth a lot. He says, any interest in being on the Shadow Commission on 9/11? The membership list is secret. Rough cut at, and then of course that doesn't work. Let me know. Regards, Ed Epstein. Maxwell says, thanks for the invite. Unfortunately, I cannot be on the Shadow Commission. And that's it. It's like nothing else after or before that we can see at this time. But that is fucking crazy. I mean, I've always been of the school that like 9/11 was just an epic failure. I mean, I joined the service because of 9/11. Long time ago. You know, you're young, you're dumb, you're full of passion and energy. And that happened when I was 20 years old. 21, had just turned 21. And it had a huge impact on me. I joined shortly after. And I always, people would say it was an inside job, and I'd be like, fuck you. You're an asshole for even suggesting that. And I'm not saying I think it was an inside job still, even after seeing that email. But I do think there's definitely some fuckery going on with 9/11. And I don't know if it was like maybe their attempt to cover their tracks at the mistakes they made, or maybe they added stuff to make it look like it made more sense for them to make those mistakes. I don't know. But clearly there was some weird shit going on.
It's also been reported by numerous outlets this week that the FBI has removed files that are supposed to be made available to the Congress that include serious allegations of alleged abuse by President Trump, sexual abuse to a minor. Now, these are allegations that we know have been corroborated in other ways, and the media have reported on these, but these files themselves have been removed. Now, we view this as a very serious matter. I've personally looked for these files in the archive manifest that lists which files should be placed there. Those files are no longer there. And we have been calling on the DOJ and the Attorney General to release all of the files. I'm wondering if, in your experience, obviously in the US Senate, as Secretary of State, if you've any response to the behavior of the DOJ in their withholding of critical information and the apparent removal of files that could suggest serious crimes by folks in this administration.
Congressman, I appreciate your raising this issue, and I appreciated the statement that you put out when this became public knowledge, thanks to investigative reporting, which revealed it. And I think that this behavior by the Justice Department deserves the most thorough investigation that the Congress could carry out. As I understand the sequence of events, this committee subpoenaed the Justice Department, as well as the Epstein estate, as well as law enforcement officials from prior administrations, as well as my husband and me. The Justice Department refused to comply, which is what led to the passage by the Congress of the Transparency Act, which then was signed into law. And I think from the very beginning, the behavior of the Attorney General and her staff has demonstrated either a gross incompetence, which is bothersome because they are the keepers of information that should be evaluated for law enforcement purposes, or a clear cover-up because they are protecting the president and others. Either one of those should be the focus of this committee to try to get to the bottom. If they are incompetent and they are incapable of complying with the law that the Congress passed, we need to know that because they are falling down on the job. They have an FBI director who's more interested in drinking beer in a hockey dressing room after our team won the Olympics, rather than being responsive and complying with the law as it has been promulgated. So I don't think it's unfair to say that given the sequencing of the events, starting with the way that President Trump made the release of the files a key element of his 2024 campaign, the promise that he and then his Attorney General made that the files would be released, then a walking back of that as they began to look at the files, an ignoring of what they had promised, including that they had a client list on the desk of the Attorney General. Reasonable people would have to assume they are engaged in a massive cover-up, which is infuriating. As an American, as a citizen, all of us should be, regardless of party, wondering what are they hiding? And that's why I said in my opening statement, the President of the United States is not above the law and should be in a setting like this answering questions under oath, as should others who are prominently featured in the files.
and especially the group that is featured after 2008. Because prior to 2008, when Jeffrey Epstein pled guilty to the watered-down charges that Alex Acosta negotiated and then was rewarded for in the first Trump administration with a cabinet position, there are so many unanswered questions. And I looked at the transcript of the Alex Acosta testimony that was taken before this committee, and I don't think that any Republican members asked him a question. So you have to conclude that there is something rotten in the state of Denmark, or clearly the Justice Department, starting in the White House and at the top with the Attorney General. And this latest example of the missing files about the allegations, and they are absolutely nothing more than allegations, but the FBI interviewed that witness 4 times. You don't interview a non-credible witness 4 times. You don't put into the FBI reporting, protect this source, if you think there is nothing to it. So, of course, I would like to know, like every other American deserves to know, what is in those files and who is going to hold people accountable, because the Justice Department seems to be either unwilling or incapable of doing so.
Some of this was briefly touched upon, but as you know, there is wide speculation among the public that Jeffrey Epstein may have been affiliated with domestic intelligence agencies and services. Alex Acosta, for example, Secretary of Labor in the first Trump administration, allegedly said that Epstein, quote, belonged to intelligence, end quote. We know that Acosta has denied the statement, but it nonetheless raises questions about Epstein. You obviously served in a variety of highly sensitive positions, allowing you to access some of our nation's most sensitive and secretive information. Either during or after your time in government, were you ever made aware of Jeffrey Epstein having any kind of relationship, directly or indirectly, with a United States intelligence agency or service like the CIA?
I was not, but obviously I served in the Senate and don't recall anything like that ever being presented. I was on the Armed Services Committee, so perhaps there might have been a mention if there was any relevance.
Secretary Clinton, is your husband someone the committee should investigate?
My husband will be here tomorrow. You'll have a chance to ask him questions.
So my question is your husband is someone this committee should investigate?
Asked and answered.
Apparently you are. You've subpoenaed him. He's going to be here tomorrow.
In your testimony before the break, you discussed why you believe President Trump should testify before our committee due to a, quote, pattern of behavior, end quote. You testified that a pattern of behavior warrants accountability. So I want to make sure I understand your standard correctly. The pattern of behavior you describe includes being held civilly liable, indictments, sexually deviant behavior, correct?
Yes.
In 1998, your husband was found civilly liable for sexual misconduct with Paula Jones and settled for $850,000. Is that correct?
Yes.
By your standard of pattern of behavior, should your husband testify before this committee?
He is testifying tomorrow.
On December 19th, 1998, President Clinton was impeached on charges of perjury and obstruction of justice, which directly related to his extramarital affair with Monica Lewinsky. Is that correct?
Yes.
And your husband was impeached for perjury related to sexual behavior, correct?
I didn't understand what you said.
Your husband was impeached for perjury related to sexual behavior, his sexual behavior.
He was impeached for several reasons, and then was acquitted in the Senate.
And your husband flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 17 to 26 times, correct?
He made several trips with different legs on the trip, as I recall.
But he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 17 to 26 times?
Mm-hmm.
Were you aware that Secret Service was dropped on some of those flights?
That is not my understanding.
Where they were not on some of those flights?
That is not my
So
understanding.
your understanding is that Secret Service was on all of the flights that President Clinton was on?
That is
with
my
Epstein?
understanding.
By this standard of behavior, multiple credible accusers, including Juanita Broderick, who alleged rape against your husband was disbarred in Arkansas, lost his law license before the Supreme Court, flew on Epstein's plane dozens of times, visited Epstein's island.
That is not true.
That is absolutely untrue.
Well, there's documentation in the DOJ files. I'm not sure you're aware, your attorneys have told you, but Jeffrey Epstein told one of the victims to lie to investigators, to lie that Bill Clinton was ever on Epstein Island. I can provide that document to you.
We would like that document, please.
Yeah, counsel, because actually the files say just the opposite. Epstein himself denied he was.
These are FBI notes from an interview with a victim, and I can get you the victim number and the case number and the files. These are notes from a 302 interview.
If you'd like those, are you going to provide those now?
I don't, that's not my line of questioning. She brought it up, but I have a
I'm
document.
sorry,
I can give to
you're
you.
making a representation
Yeah.
as to the fact.
I didn't enter anything as an exhibit.
But it's factually inaccurate.
No, I can give it to you later. I can go find the document, make copies of it, and give it to you this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Okay. By your standard of pattern of behavior, according to documents released by the Department of Justice, your husband appears in photos in swimming pools, hot tubs, aboard Jeffrey Epstein's private plane with unidentified young women. We came here today and told this committee, you told this committee that a pattern of behavior demands accountability, correct?
I said that I believe the committee should call anyone who had a substantial pattern and practice of contact with Jeffrey Epstein and his crimes before they came to light.
Does that include your husband?
And after they came to light. You're going to have a chance to question him tomorrow.
So I'll ask you again, by the standard you just set in your own words just now, does this standard apply equally to your husband or only President Trump?
I have said that my husband has been subpoenaed. He will appear. He will answer your questions to the best of his ability. But there is no evidence whatsoever of any connection with Jeffrey Epstein's crimes.
After Jeffrey Epstein was convicted, did it concern you at all that you had taken a substantial amount of money from Jeffrey Epstein?
That's an inappropriate assumption. I did not take a substantial amount of money from Jeffrey Epstein. So far as I know, Jeffrey Epstein contributed to the joint committee that was supporting my Senate race.
Which was how much?
I believe I was told $20,000.
You don't consider $20,000 substantial?
I do not consider it relevant to me because I had no recollection that I ever knew that he gave any money to
So
the
you
joint
didn't talk
committee.
to your donors that gave $20,000 to your campaign?
My understanding of the rules back then is that there was no coordination between the committee and the campaign. So, no, I have no recollection.
But that doesn't
of
mean
knowing
you
that.
can't speak to your donors. That doesn't prohibit, the law does not prohibit you speaking to
But
donors.
I didn't know he was a donor. As far as I knew, he was not a donor until I learned this in
Did it
preparation
concern you at
for
all
the
that Ghislaine
testimony.
Maxwell was heavily involved with people you knew and were close to?
I knew people that I knew her. Yes, that's true.
And you just shrugged, you didn't want to look into it or have any
Nobody,
question about it?
until her crimes were revealed and she was indicted and tried and convicted, I don't think people knew very much about at all
And
what
then
she
how do
was
you know
doing.
Howard Lutnick?
I know Howard Lutnick because when I was senator on 9/11, the firm he headed, Cantor Fitzgerald, suffered the greatest loss of life. As I recall, something like 650 of his employees were murdered.
It's just so fucking disappointing, isn't it? That these were the losers that we chose to run our country. Every 4 years, I always say there's 350 million people almost, give or takes, in this country. And every year, that's the best we can do is turd number one and turd number two. I just don't get it. There's so many bright people. There's so many intelligent people. There's so many good people. Why is this what we end up with every fucking time? In my entire life, none of them have told the truth about what they were going to do. None of them came through with what they said they were going to do. And you mentioned it earlier, the Clinton grabbing the photo back to take a look at it again during his testimony. I mean, come on. How old is he now?